Hey guys, sorry about that. I was cleaning up my channel a bit. I was making a playlist for this trial and um, going back, and I realized I forgot on the title to put what day was what, afternoon, morning, all that kind of stuff. So, sorry, didn't mean to worry anybody. I'm fine. So, I hear no noise from the court. No motion, no noise, no nothing. But that's normal. They tend to start late. So I have no idea what this defense is doing. I'm still, my flabbers are gasted. Don't know. I still don't get it. How does the amount of blood in the apartment tell anybody whether or not it was premeditated? How does a crime scene tell you? I guess there could be instances where a crime scene could tell you whether or not it was premeditated. Like if, and it would depend on the crime scene itself. Like if a car has a red rum kit in it, like look at Bundy. I almost forgot his name. Oh my goodness. Oh, hey Ronnie, thank you. Um like look at Bundy's car. He had, I think he was the one that had like the inside doorknob taken off the car so they couldn't get out. And he had the murder kit in the car. Now that screams premeditation. So I guess in some instances, you can look at a crime scene and see, yeah, that was premeditated. But you can't look at the amount of blood at a crime scene and tell whether or not the amount of blood, that doesn't make any sense. You don't bleed more or less if it's planned out. And the thing with the scream, you're going to scream whether it's planned or not. She did say some of the screams sounded like words, as in like argument screaming, fighting. But that still doesn't make it not planned or not. Like a lot of times, because like what the attorneys say is not evidence. And I know a lot of times what they're supposed to do is just ask the question, let the witness answer, and then the jury is supposed to connect the dots. But I think there are a lot of times that they don't use enough, they don't ask enough questions to connect enough dots. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of times I think maybe my imagination is too overactive, or maybe not active enough to put the dots together in the way that they want us to put it together. I overthink it or something. And that's what my brain is doing right now. Because I'm trying to figure out what the defense is doing. It's like the hamster wheel in my brain is just going crazy right now. What is he doing? I don't get it. I don't understand. What is he doing? What is he doing? Like I said, my flappers are gasted. I have no idea what this man is trying to do. And I would really like to know if they gave him a plea deal, because he's not saying that he's not guilty. Any day now. Thank you, StreamYard. I feel like I wait 5 minutes after.
We're trying to cut some shades. I think at this point, we'll just revert to where it needs to be. The state's objecting to this expert, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you just articulate the reasons why you think you should get to it? Why I feel it's wrong.
Are we on the record now?
Your Honor, the basis for the state's objection.
Stupid StreamYard. They lost connection to my browser audio. I don't know why.
Which provides that if scientific, technical, or other specialized knowledge will substantially assist the trier of fact to understand the evidence or the issue. The witness qualified as an expert by knowledge, skill, expertise, training. This witness is, during my voir dire, the words that we used at one point hard to say. He's equivocated on everything. The court began to then voir dire the witness, asking about opinions versus findings. Your Honor, that's not going to materially assist the trier of fact in this case. So on that basis, under 702, and specifically for the reasons enumerated by the trial court in the case of State versus Mustafa, we must object to his qualification as an expert. He seems like a very fine gentleman. However, I don't believe he should be permitted by the court to opine on or be declared an expert related to two fields that were submitted. One was crime scene investigation, the other being blood pattern, blood stain expert or blood pattern analysis. Exactly.
Okay. So it's less about whether or not he went to the right schools, got the right experience. It's more about whether or not his opinion in this case can substantially assist the trier of fact.
I understand that the schools that he went to, as I understand his testimony, was that he's worked in crime scene units starting in 1998. His retirement was sometime in 2013. Then was in private practice until 2017, where he then joined the group that he's with. He does have a long career. The question is, does he have specialized training or experience? I heard he has attended ACTL conferences, the Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. I've heard that he has attended, I believe, 3 schools or 3 classes, one of them taught by an individual named Davidson. I didn't catch the rest of it. There's been no no testimony regarding any peer review of any of his work, specifically the practice and experiments that he does in his house, that he testified to. He did go to the scene on 4 occasions, Your Honor, but at that point, evidence had been removed. He describes that there is no peer review of his methods. He hasn't described any scientific or reliable system which he's using to take measurements of the scene or to conduct an analysis of what he observed at the scene. He hasn't provided any clue. He hasn't provided us any clue to the processes, methods, or procedures used to render his opinions other than they are his theories and guesses as to what happened. And on that basis, we would say that we just can't. That's fine.
All right, I'm going to take one thing out off the table for discussions. We can focus on what we want. I do find that Mr. Lawrence, with his experience in the criminal justice system as a crime scene crime scene investigator, where he served in Davidson County since 1998. His experience before that as a homicide investigator, seeing many homicide scenes apparently. He started National Investigative Services in 2013. He's currently employed there. He did list many teachings that he's done and trainings he's attended. So I do find he would probably qualify as an expert in crime scene reconstruction and bloodstained pattern analysis as a homicide defense. The question is whether or not he can form any opinions that are helpful in this case.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
And so, first off, the court needs to understand that Mr. Lawrence is, does the court want Mr. Lawrence in there?
Doesn't matter at this point. I don't think.
Mr. Lawrence is a rebuttal witness. He is to rebut the state's proof. And so that is essential to the defense's case. The court has already excluded the forensic psychologist, and with utmost respect, as the court knows, we believe is an error because what Dr. Cogswell talked about, what a forensic psychologist does and what kind of proof that he would need in this case. But the point of Mr. Lawrence is to rebut the state's investigation. Specifically, let's talk about Dr. Cogswell. Dr. Cogswell opined, and a lot of his opinions, I've brought this up before, aren't exact, aren't certainties. If the court is looking for certainties in the criminal justice system, you're not likely to find it very much.
On that point, just make sure, so I know we've revisited that a few times now. No one has to say with 100% certainty this would happen. They can say, or supposed to say, a reasonable degree of medical certainty or psychological certainty. Their opinion is this. So there is flexibility in there. I'm not asking for an absolute certainty of anything. I think the flexibility comes from to the reasonable degree, but your opinion has to be something more than speculation. Just so you know.
I agree with that. So Dr. Cogswell talked about the position of the body when killed. That is something that that expert opined on. Dr. Cogswell opined on the crime scene in general. While he did not testify that Ms. Pace was shackled or handcuffed because he was excluded from that, the state made those implications that she was. Mr. Lawrence can testify regarding the state of the body. When found, he can testify regarding kind of the same things that Dr. Cogswell saw. Then there is with Crawford and the investigator Crawford and the CSI team rebutting on how one of the arguments is that this is the most blood that they have ever seen. Our argument, our rebuttal is they're not seeing just blood. What they're seeing is the cleaning materials that we talked about, then all these people that have contaminated the scene. So yes, the court is probably right. I have one uncontamination. But it's not just blood that would have been tracked throughout the apartment. It would be the cleaning materials too. And he can opine on that as well. Then one of the most serious things, and one of the most important things that we need Mr. Lawrence to testify about is how how the Chattanooga Police Department, the crime scene investigation.
No.
More importantly, and what's going to come out through Mr. Lawrence are pieces of evidence, specifically one piece of evidence that CPD still doesn't know about. So it's important for me to be able to introduce that through this witness.
How does it show premeditation?
Is it in the defendant's possession? It's in your possession. Your investigator took the picture.
So what picture are we talking
We
about?
haven't, I don't know, Judge.
Chill, dude. God.
I don't know what to say.
Well, we're talking about whether or not your expert gets to testify about it, so.
He found evidence at the scene that Chattanooga Police Department crime scene investigators took a picture of, but they made no mention. And I would like to reserve my ability to show that through my my expert, and it would be more of a factual thing. What did you find?
Well, let me say this, that it's a very close call where he's going to be able to testify anyway. If it's something that's going to be significant.
In-camera inspection is fine, Judge.
Dude.
Well, you need to respond to whether or not it's relevant, I think.
Yeah, I would like to see it.
There you go.
Turn your back and start rattling stuff while the judge is talking to you.
Your Honor,
Who
we
we have?
do have these. Again, I don't know.
All right.
The girls will see that. We do.
Oh, well,
Any other opinions you want
can I
to?
show the court? If it's going to be the difference between me getting my expert in and not, I'll show the court.
Could be.
Well, dude, tell us how you really feel. He's ticking me off. Get rid of the attitude.
So not only is our expert a crime scene reconstruction expert, but he's also a blood stain interpreter and analysis. These are pictures provided to you're not going to be able to see it probably as well.
Turn the lights off. Run. You can zoom in if you wish.
Well, no, so I have three pictures that Mr. Lawrence has created here where he zooms in. Now, if the court, where's the?
For the record, Judge, that's already in there.
Okay. Then I
Oh, wait, no. Yes, with the gold on bottle, it's not visible, Judge, because it's cut off.
So if the
For the
court,
purpose of the record, what exhibit are we talking
Your Honor, it's one of the ones that Mr. Johnson.
about? We can remark this one, or mark this one.
I believe it's 150. 15.
115.
150-15.
Yes, sir.
this sheet here, we believe was collected on November the 28th. It's listed as item number 30 on Investigator Johnson's evidence inventory report.
You talking about the bed cover?
Yes, this maroon looking sheet. So the court will look right here, and I'm going to put another picture down. And what the court can see here is you can start to see fingerprints. And then here's it even more closely. Fingerprints. These were never collected by CPD, as far as I'm aware. They were never sent off for testing, as far as I'm aware. And There are no results of whose fingerprints those are.
My fingerprints on the tape, right?
What is that going to prove?
So I've been doing this a while, and I've learned things every 11 minutes, it seems. I've never heard of fingerprints being taken from like a cloth material, like a clothing or a bedspread.
And that's one of the great things about my expert, what he could explain.
Well, you didn't say that earlier, so we might be able to pull up and talk about that again, but
You do that too.
I've never heard of fingerprints being able to be taken from a bedspread.
And it should be noted that this piece of evidence, while collected, has not been introduced to the state as well. In fact, I don't, it might be in the prosecutor's office for all I know, but it's not here in court.
Okay, so just to catch me up to where you are so far, you're saying that the expert, your expert, is important to rebut Dr. Cogswell's opinion of the position of the victim's body, to rebut Detective Crawford's statements, the most blood he's ever seen. Your expert would say that's actually tracked blood, not blood from a victim. And your expert has an opinion on how the evidence was poorly collected.
There's that. Let me go ahead and say the most essential opinion that we talked about previously. Investigator Crawford said he opined, not an expert, not qualified as an expert. He said that he believed that Jasmine Pace was killed in the bathroom, where Mr. Lawrence will testify, not that he can say where she was killed, but can say that there's no, I mean, I think he testified this, there's no way that Investigator Crawford can make that case. That is the central part.
Can we discuss that briefly?
Yes.
I believe that your expert said that his opinion was that most of it happened in the bedroom, which could be seen to rebut Detective Crawford's belief that it happened in the bathroom. I do believe that Detective Crawford did not make that statement as part of the state's case that she did not come from a jury. You're asking the question, like, where do you think it happened, perhaps, and he's allowed to answer at that point.
I'm certain he was allowed.
So you're thinking General Moyle or General Womp said, where do you think this happened? And he's allowed to answer that. I thought it came in
I
either
believe
cross.
it was Mr. Weiss. I believe it was cross-examination.
I think it's either cross or juror question, because I think they asked.
I remember that I didn't, 15 seconds into the question and answer, I remember that I believed I should have objected and I hadn't, and Investigator Crawford had sort of got it out of his mouth already. I recall that it was on cross-examination for that.
Was it your direct anyway?
No, Your Honor.
Might have been me asking the juror, or might have been.
What?
Not to say that it matters, it might be a distinction without a difference. Just kind of making sure that it wasn't brought in for the state wanted the detective to say that opinion. I don't think that was the case. Okay.
And then the last point that I'd like to make, it is unfair to exclude this witness because somehow well, first off, there's due process rights, and we have a right to present the defense. By limiting this, you are vastly excluding the testimony that is necessary to rebut and contradict the state's case. But as the Mufasa court has been recognized today, the Mufasa opinion has been recognized today, if it doesn't, the court pointed out, the state is, or the defense theory is voluntary manslaughter, not premeditated. If the expert's opinion is not relevant to that issue,
Substantially.
on that specific issue, then the rest of it would be irrelevant. Well, in that same vein, though, once I did my opening and admitted to the killing, the state then put on 5 days of proof regarding fingerprints and blood and all these different things. Why didn't the court limit the state on proving just premeditation at that point then?
Because the same evidence that showed the identity of your client, of the person who killed Jasmine Pace, can be used as far as covering up the tracks that's relevant to premeditation. The fact that the state might have used the cell phone records to show that it was Jason Chen who killed Jasmine Pace. since you admitted that, the state can use the cell phone records to show that Jason Chen killed Jasmine Pace and then took a lot of elaborate steps to cover it up. So it's still relevant to premeditation.
That was relevant to abuse of course, but for the good example is the fingerprints. How does the fingerprints help prove premeditation? It doesn't.
Doesn't, but you didn't object to it.
Well, Your Honor, the state has to, beyond a reasonable doubt, prove, it doesn't matter what's said in opening. If he admits to the entire thing as first-degree murder in opening, the state still has to, he pled guilty in front of the jury, the state, he pled not guilty, I apologize, the state still always has to meet our burden of proof. So
Right.
it can't just be, well, he admitted it, so now we're just gonna cut to the chase. Obviously, we have to present proof, and we take that burden very, very serious regardless of what the defense says in the opening statement, which is not proof for the jury, and they're gonna hear that instruction. So I would contest all of that exchange because of course we have to prove it was him, which includes fingerprints and cell phone location records. That burden is still ours.
And we would have had that discussion for sure if there had been an objection by Mr. Weiss. However, it would have, since identity is not an issue, it would have had less probative value than if identity was still contested. I'm not saying it would have been excluded,
Yes, Your
but
Honor.
that's,
I agree with the statement. I don't disagree with any part of that. They should have been limited in proving their case. The defense should be limited in proving our side.
it's got to be satisfied with rules of evidence. There is an objection to this expert. There wasn't an objection to fingerprint evidence or anything else. So we can only proceed on what the parties don't. I'm brought in when the parties don't agree on something. And so they don't agree on it. So, Mr. Roll, I know you really want to respond to some of this while Mr. Weiss is still here. I want to ask him some questions about what he just said, okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Weiss,
Yes, sir.
you basically listed some reasons for rebuttal, why your expert should be allowed to testify, specifically to rebut Dr. Cogswell's opinion about the position of the body, Investigator Crawford's opinion about the most blood he's ever seen, and how the evidence was.
The state's theory is that Jasmine Pace was killed in the bathroom, and it wasn't a result of an argument or something in the heat of the passion. They're trying to show that there's blood throughout the whole apartment, which isn't necessarily true. They haven't shown that with scientific proof beyond to a reasonable scientific certainty where Jasmine Pace was killed within this apartment. They're trying to allege that body doing all these things proved premeditation. The defense's theory is that a majority of the blood was in the bedroom, and that would corroborate the defense's opening, that would it most likely happened somewhere, or it happened somewhere else in the house, but no expert can tell you, or no person can tell you exactly where it happened.
Thank you. We're getting very close to why this expert might be relevant. I heard you right and say, in fact, if the state's theory is that there was blood everywhere across the apartment, and therefore killing happened in multiple rooms, versus the killing occurring in just the bedroom, and that one heat
And we're back. I don't know what happened. Hang on. The judge just said, maybe you haven't been explaining it well for the last hour and a half. Oh, jeez.
Killing occurring in just the bedroom in that one heat of passion type moment. That's getting close to an opinion by this expert that's relevant to premeditation. Maybe I haven't been explaining it the last, so that's starting to make, I see your point finally. So I get the point about the blood not necessarily being all over the apartment. If that's what you're saying your expert's want to say. Position the body, and tell me more about that. How come your expert when the defendant's out?
Mr. Lawrence would testify that, so the state keep trying to make the inference that Jasmine Pace was shackled and bound and then killed. Whereas my expert can explain that, for example, he can say, I spoke to Miss Paglino Brewer, for example, and she heard running and back and forth and shackled if she's hearing running back and forth. So he could testify regarding the information that he received as part of his investigation in that way. In addition to that, he can also testify regarding the ligature marks or the lack thereof. If you look at the wrist of Jasmine Pace where the handcuffs are shackled with Dr. Cogswell, you see rusting from where the moisture hit the handcuffs, but what you don't see is bruising, tearing, or anything like that. He's going to testify that you don't see any defensive wounds on the body, just like Dr. Cogswell would have testified.
So there's a few things we can talk about on this opinion if you want your expert to do. I don't see anything in the history about anatomy, physiology, how the body responds, when shackled. So that's one thing we can talk about. Is your expert's qualifications to rebut Dr. Cogswell's opinion on that? The other thing is that Dr. Cogswell never said she was shackled. He said that basically 2 + 2. He didn't say 4. Basically said that she was in one place. She, didn't move.
But you have to remember when Dr. Cogswell is testifying about this, and I objected to this because of this very reason. They were showing a picture of Jasmine Pace bound and shackled. So while Dr. Cogswell didn't say it out loud, it was on the screen for the whole jury to hear. That gave the impression, it gave the inference, and it's unfair and misleading. That's why I objected at that time.
Look out right up to the line, but my opinion did not cross it. Dr. Cogswell did not testify anything that was beyond his expertise.
No, I agree with that. But the image on the screen didn't match the testimony Dr. Cogswell was testifying to. And it's misleading for the jury. He didn't say that she was shackled, but sure as heck there was a picture of her shackled on the picture behind him while he was testifying about it.
What would your expert say? How can your expert be qualified to talk about what ligature marks look like and how the body is?
He said he's worked over, I think he said 800 homicides in his career. He's been to multiple crime scenes. He observed the discovery of his investigation. It's all part of it.
That would make you an expert in it, wouldn't it?
Judge Stillings already qualified me as an expert cross-examination, so.
Anything else you want to say on that point?
Dr. Cogswell said that Jasmine Pace was killed in the same way that she was found in a suitcase, or that it was likely. And he might, or Mr. Lawrence he won't be able to say what position she was in, but he can say it is unlikely that that position would make sense because of lack of defensive wounds, because of the running beforehand that was testified by the first witness.
Anything else on that point?
Yes, sir.
All right, how the evidence is poorly collected, can you explain how that goes to heat of passion versus premeditation?
The state is trying to use the evidence they collected, and they're going to use it in closing to show that this was not a crime of passion. So he's going to be able to testify that there was no.
As an expert in two fields, crime scene and blood pattern
What
analysis.
just happened? It did the same thing.
Saying that, well, the blood should have been here, but it's contained in this room is not an interpretation of a blood pattern. It's from what direction was the blood cast off the solid object while it was in motion. He may be qualified to
Like a more specific, much more basic opinion, but he still could probably make it, don't you think?
I'm not so sure that he could, unless he has some kind of experience in quantifying volumes of blood. How could he say that most of it is here and most of it's not there? And also, don't forget, Your Honor, the duality of the argument that's being made by the defense in this, people who did the contamination in this case is none other than the defendant by cleaning up the crime scene. So I don't know how an expert hired by a defendant who presumably knows that his client was mopping up blood would be able to render any kind of an opinion to a reasonable degree of any kind of certainty where the majority of the blood is when he knows for a fact that his client cleaned up the scene. That was said in opening statement, and I understand they're not bound to it, but if that's the theory of the defense and he's a defense expert, then surely he knows that to be true. So, Your Honor, the question then is his opinion reliable?
Let me ask you my point.
Yes, Your Honor.
It seems like that would go to the way not admissibility. Like he's going to testify that it's spread out to the apartment. The state can certainly argue that besides contamination by the victim's family, besides contamination by the police, the defendant's own efforts in cleaning up blood does not, it muddies the water to the degree that you can't say that it happened all the time.
That's one of the threshold questions for McDaniel versus CSS, the reliability. He has not provided any testimony whatsoever regarding the methods that he used, other than I looked at pictures. I've been in the crime scene 4 times. We don't know when. We don't know what methods were used to take measurements, if any. We don't know what tools were used to evaluate items of evidence, if any, other than just pure observation. So I would submit that it does in fact go beyond the scope of blood pattern analysis. And further, it would go beyond the scope of crime scene investigation. So the state would disagree with that, and we would object. As for the bloody fingerprints, again, beyond the scope of his expertise, he's not a latent print examiner. How can he opine that those are indeed what he claims them to be?
And how can you find that even if they are a handprint? Is my question. Even though if it was a handprint, it certainly looks like finger smear. Could fingerprints be usable prints be extracted from that?
That's not the issue with why that's important. The importance is we don't know whose handprint it is. And the importance of knowing why the whose handprint it is because if it's Jasmine Pace's, then she was not shackled when she was killed. Okay. But no, that's the proof of it exactly. So
I want to stop you at some point because I want to, so we're not making the same arguments over. I want to just focus in on the one that you made. You said the issue is not whose fingerprints they are, but who made those prints or who made the hand. So it's like,
I did not articulate that.
Okay.
It's important to know that this, what we believe to be handprint, was not tested to see if it was flow. There was also no testing to see if they were, or whose fingerprints they were. If they were Jasmine Pace's, and the defense's theory in opening is that Jasmine Pace attacked Jason Chen as he ran back into his bedroom, and then he picked up a knife, killed Jasmine Pace. And our argument is that he was not, or Jasmine Pace was not shackled at that time, that she couldn't, or then she left that print. Because if she was shackled at that time, she couldn't have made that print.
so here's what I'm getting, and we'll get back to the guy with the code in just a minute. I would love to hear that contrary to what I believe for over 20-something years, you can get prints from a porous surface like fabric. I do see where maybe the size of the fingers might indicate whether or not it was someone who was 6'1", or someone who was basically 5 foot nothing, so I could advise. That might be helpful in identifying who left the print.
I don't think you could opine as to that.
I think we have to ask it.
Hang on, General,
I did there.
I know, and I'm, please let me finish. You'll have your chance to respond.
First of all, it's the classic garbage in, garbage out analysis, Judge. The defense in saying what he would opine to, it's, I spoke with Miss Paglino Brewer. I spoke with her, and based on that, I don't believe that this was a murder, that it was some sort of an altercation fight. But keep in mind, Judge, the testimony that she gave from the witness stand contradicts the very assertion that this happened in the bedroom, that there was running away from the bedroom towards the front door after the scream.
Again, doesn't that go to weight versus disability, where the expert would have to say he disregarded that aspect of it?
But that's the only thing that the defense could cite to that he relied upon. Furthermore, the ligature marks, the defensive wounds, I think was all part of the same argument for this particular piece of evidence. He's not a self-defense expert. He can't opine as to what kind of a wound is an aggressive offensive mark or a self-defense mark any more than the medical examiner couldn't. He was asked and he couldn't answer it. He said, no, we shy away from those terms. So it's the state's position that he's an expert in all fields, but he can render an opinion in none. And on that basis, Your Honor, he is not a reliable witness. And because he's not reliable, it will not materially assist the trier of fact in this case. Subject to Your Honor's questions.
I think I'm good. Thank you so far.
May I just make one last point?
Yes, sir.
That handprints also prove that she wasn't a female.
All right.
I think she's old.
Where we are with this, I've got a good idea of where the parameters think of this expert's testimony might impact the relevant aspects of this trial. There's still a couple of questions I have, but I've heard enough from the parties what they expect the proof to show what the anticipated testimony would be. I do not find this expert qualifies to the degree that he can give an opinion at Mr. Weiss's comments on ligature marks and what they mean. That does not, I don't think, qualifications I've heard from this particular witness rise to the level where he can provide that. The standard is not whether he has a little more experience than the average person. It's got to be enough to substantially assist the trier of fact, and I don't think that's the case with this particular expert witness. I do think that he is an expert enough to testify that the blood that lit up the entire apartment basically could have been spread by contamination of the crime scene. I believe he certainly personally worked enough where he could give that opinion, say that it's tainted. I believe he said in his testimony earlier that he can't say for sure where it happened, but I interpret what he said about the bedroom, that a big part of the incident took place in the bedroom. So, General Wall, I hear your objections about how he was saying he didn't have opinions. Suddenly came up with some. This particular witness seems like he uses a different nomenclature than most of the folks. So I'm going to give that, given the benefit of the doubt on that one. He might have been thinking of something that was 100% certain or beyond a reasonable doubt, neither of which are the standards that need to be, that apply whether or not he gets to testify. So I do think he can establish his credentials and the relevance to this particular case. We finally got around to talking about on whether or not the blood could have been tracked, carried, or whether it was by the defendant or the Pace family or the police officers. I certainly think you can give an opinion on that as well. The only question mark I have is about the fingerprints on the bedspread. That really wasn't developed when he was on the stand earlier. So he's going to need to come back to the stand and explain exactly what his opinion is on that. Then the court will make a determination whether or not he can testify as to that realm of testimony. So where is he? Bring him in.
Mr. Lawrence.
Do you mind swearing, Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, sir. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Mr. Lawrence, we've talked a lot about what you can talk about and what you won't be allowed to talk about from this jury, but there's a very specific line of question I think Mr. White's going to ask you about regarding the fingerprints on the bed sheet that you looked at.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Lawrence.
Mr. Lawrence, did you review the discovery and evidence provided in this case?
I did.
I'm showing you a picture. Can you please identify that?
This was a crime scene picture of the scene from the bedroom that was in the back room, showing the pictures taken actually near the bathroom door, leading into the bedroom, turns slightly to the left.
Do you know if this maroon sheet was collected into evidence?
There was one collected, but I think it was misidentified. But to me, it's a comforter type, but I think it's listed as a sheet.
I'm showing you what this is the evidence. I'm showing you what's the evidence inventory report by Robert Johnson. You identify number 30.
Number 30, collected on the 28th at 10/11, is a maroon fitted sheet.
Is that what that is?
It could be, but the picture It's kind of indicated, it could be a comfort, it could be a fitted shoe.
But it is the ring.
Yes,
How many times did you do an investigation inside Jason Chen's apartment?
I went in twice in December.
So
And
tell me about how, was this in there when you went in the apartment? Was it,
no, sir, there was no bed covers on the bed.
okay. When was the first time that you saw that picture?
It was saying probably around June, once the discovery started coming in, I received the crime scene pictures and everything started trickling in. That's when I saw it.
So when you looked at this picture, tell me what you did as part of your investigation.
As I mentioned before, when I look at photographs, you don't actually see everything. So I make a working copy first. I take all of what I get, move it out of the way so I never touch it. But I make a working copy where each photograph, I will enhance the photograph, either by desaturation, which means turning it into black and white, which gives more clarity, or adding brightness, contrast, or tones. Because sometimes you can't physically see things that are on different colored items. So I enhance the photographs.
I'm showing you two pictures. Can you identify these?
Yes, sir, these are close-up pictures of this from my stuff.
Did you manipulate this in any way other than zooming in?
I zoomed in and I did change the contrast and the brightness a little bit, just to give it a little different tone quality.
And why would you do that?
Because when I zoomed in, I started seeing something. Couldn't tell what it was. I had to go in and physically change the contrast and stuff to where it stood out. So once I got that balanced out, then I zoomed in closer, and that's how I located what's there.
For the purposes of the record, Your Honor, can you mark this as the next collected exhibit for identification only?
Yes, 226 ID only. At this point, if he gets to testify, we can talk about it.
Of course. Should we staple together?
Yes, please. How many pictures, Mr. Weiss? 3?
Yes.
226, 1.
The first picture is all in the state sentence. Now, after you observed, what did you observe in the picture? What did your contract show you?
The contrast showed me some possible blood transfer stains, which my first thought was they were linear type, which that appeared to be finger impressions.
Why is that important in this case?
Well, from information I had, there were two people there. So who did it belong to? Why was it there? Pretty much like the who, what, where, what. Why is this thing in this particular location? How did it get there? And who's it?
And why is that important in this case,
It's important in every case, actually, but
particularly in this case?
in this case here, it kind of indicates something is going on in that area, the bedroom. And it fits into the smaller confined area of the saturation stains on the floor and the markings on the wall.
Do you believe that to be a handprint or finger mark?
It's possibly a whole hand, but there's no way to find that out, but it does appear to be finger impressions. I can't tell if it's gonna have to be a swipe, which is transferring a bloody object to an object instead of picking it up from an object.
And that's called a swipe.
It's a swipe, but it's a transfer. It's a type of transfer. You're transferring the blood from one location to another, and you're leaving a blood-stained pattern at that location.
Would it have been possible to develop fingerprints from this surface?
Very, very rarely can you get rich details enough to make a comparison. You can try to get the width, length of the hand. Sometimes that can lead you to determine if it's male or female, but that's not always exact. But you could get a little clarity to it. Plus, you can also get cut out a swatch, send it in for DNA. And confirm it is blood.
Do you know if that was ever tested here?
From everything I received, it was not tested.
You know the defense's theory in this case?
Yes.
The state's theory is that Jasmine was bound and shackled when she was killed, right? Do you understand that to be the state's
Yes.
theory? And why, what proof would this handprint show if it belonged to Jasmine Pace?
That her hand is on the bed coming from some direction. But it could indicate that there was no restraints.
What would it say about her being in the fetal position?
Well, you can't argue what position she is in, just how the hand got there. It would be important on how high that bed is, because beds are different sizes, the height of it. If she's in a fetal position and restrained, she's not going to be able to at least reach her hand up high. But
Check your honor, beyond the scope of his expertise. Opinion. He's seen the handcuffs and the shackles, so he knows how short the chain is on the handcuffs.
At this point, overruled.
you have to take into effect the height of the bed, the position of where it's at. And I was considering that compared to where the big saturation stage was, but since those were not photographed together, it's going to be hard to do that. But it actually can give you an idea if it's enhanced and processed, if someone was standing, kneeling to that. But from those pictures, I cannot physically say she was in a certain absolute position when it was developed.
So Dr. Cogswell testified that he believed that Jasmine Pace was in the fetal position when she was killed. Does your investigation as a crime scene reconstruction expert differ with that?
The way you
Mr. Weiss, that's already been talked about as far as Dr. Cogswell's opinion. So the witness is not going to be able to testify to the position of the body.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask another question.
Those are regarding the handprint or whatever this mark
Okay,
is
I
on.
thought he was getting into whether or not what position of body is what I thought you said. But
I thought you just said I couldn't ask that.
that's what I'm saying. That's why I stopped you from asking.
Okay, so that's the last line of question I have regarding that topic.
If it's anything to do to rebut Dr. Cogswell's opinion about the position of the body, this witness can't testify to that. If it's something different about the position of the body as far as the handprint on the bedspread, feel free to ask about that.
Is there anything else that is relevant to the positioning of the handprints on the bed?
That's all I could see out of it, and I didn't have access to it. But all I can make a determination on is what I see in the photograph, and in my opinion, what caused it.
May I do another line of questioning?
Sure, it's relevant.
There's been what's been described as cast off in the bathroom. That's part of, and that was used as information Investigator Crawford used to give his opinion that Jasmine Pace was killed in the bathroom. Do you have an opinion on where Jasmine Pace was killed in this house? Or in this apartment?
No, not. I can tell stuff happened in the bedroom, but there was not enough evidence in any other room that gave me the opinion something else happened in there except blood was in the other room.
So if there was alleged cast off in the bathroom, what is cast off?
Cast off is a type of impact stain. It is developed when a blood drop has some type of force behind it. If blood has no force behind it, it's going to drift. Gravity's going to take it. But if there's any type of force behind it, it's going to send that blood drop to another location. That is considered an impact. Cast off is a terminology used that a blood drop has been forcibly moved and it will develop a pattern like a linear pattern. It's either arc or straight line, which means the blood is coming off of the object and traveling in that direction until it hits something or gravity takes over.
Now, what they're calling cast off, that was never tested, as far as you know.
I did not see any testing results.
Does that cast off imply or make it more likely that Jasmine Pace was killed in the bathroom?
What those things show is there was some blood drops that was projected. What the source it came from, you would not be able to determine.
What do you mean by the source?
The source could be a hand, it could be a towel, an object that is being moved and the blood is leaving that object. A cast off usually comes from an object, a lot of times associated with a weapon, but there's nothing that's going to make you determination with what we have. What caused this thing?
Your Honor, for clarification, are we talking about the bathroom cast off now, or are we talking about the bedspread? I'm confused. Can we clarify this?
We're talking about the bathroom cast.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
So could that cast off have come off an inanimate object?
Please explain that word.
Could it come off a bloody shirt?
Yes, it could come off any object because it does not leave a telltale of what the object is. Now, as far as the cast off, as I mentioned, cast off, once it leaves the object, it's going to travel until gravity takes over or it hits an object. This particular stain had multi-directionality of stains as far as which direction the stain's going. That is common because some drops are smaller than others. The smaller drops will lose the force and gravity takes over and they start dropping faster than the others. So you might have some still going upward, but then now you've got some coming down.
I have one more line of question. And it involves the Blue Star. There is argument that if Jasmine Pace was killed in the living room, she would have had to been You looked at the Blue Star pictures in this case.
I did.
Did you see any evidence of dragging?
With the pictures provided to me, you could not make out any drag marks or on the carpet. Carpet's it's a sorbent, so that's going to kind of distort it anyway. But there was nothing I observed that I can say as an opinion that there was or wasn't. I just could not see it.
Did you see footprints?
Again, the Blue Star photographs were from a distance. They're possibly, but that's why you go further and you enhance it to see what you got. All I could see was a narrow path of Blue Star reaction, but once that was done, it was not close up. You need 90-degree shots of stains.
And so did crime scene investigation, in your opinion, did they do a proficient job at documenting the scene?
They did Blue Star and they located possible blood. That was a good job. But you have to go further. Now, I don't know what, but you have to go further. You have to, okay, now you've located blood. What does it take? Possible blood. What kind of blood? You have to test it, which they did with the hem sticks. They said there's another presumptive test. It came back positive. But you have to document that. We don't know where this thing could have possibly come from. You have to take photographs. Once you do that, everybody does things different. So you have to follow a policy or a plan, but you need to document these things. What do these things show you? And that was not done.
And because they were not done, what effect did that have on the jury?
Objection just beyond the scope of expertise.
Yeah.
I got the open question. Thanks.
You are aware that Jason had cleaned the apartment after the killing?
When I made my visits, I could see swipes and wipes on the floor.
You saw evidence of cleaning?
No, I saw blood. And once I started getting the discovery, I take it from December when I made my visit, I did not know what police had done or what the scene actually would look like at the time that I started getting discovered. But with the discovery, it was mentioned numerous times that there was cleanup.
And did you see evidence of that?
On my visit, yes.
I want to, I think that's all I have to question. Thank you.
Sir, do you recall the date upon which Miss Jasmine Pace was murdered at 110 Tremont Street, apartment 22?
Just some information from the discovery, I believe she arrived there on the 22nd and sometime during the night.
And you first went into the apartment on what date?
My first visit to 110 Tremont and going in the apartment was December 9th,
12/9 of
22.
22, and that was when you were accompanied by defense counsel.
He's
Did you go into the apartment as well?
just in the doorway.
He was in the doorway, where some of the Blue Star reaction was.
I didn't know where the Blue Star reaction was. You talking about after the fact?
Sure.
We seen the Blue Star?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I do not remember a lot of Blue Star reaction at the door. There's some, but not much.
So the answer would be yes.
Yes.
What about the second time you went?
Second time I went, I wanted to make one more stop because I was fixing to turn the keys to the apartment into the apartment management company.
What date was that?
I believe it was the 14th. I believe it was the 14th,
Of what month?
December.
22?
Yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned that you went 4 times. What were the others?
The other two was outside because I'd already turned the key into the apartment to the apartment manager. I went to take pictures of the outside cameras. This was in January. Both of these visits from January.
So when you said that you've been to the apartment 4 times, really you've just been to the building 4 times. You've only been to the apartment itself on 2 occasions. Not
Inside.
Correct. You've only been inside the
Twice.
crime scene 2 times,
The 9th and I believe the 14th.
not 4.
No,
Just
I've
making
been,
sure.
I've been to 110 Tremont 4 times.
Now, I'd like to talk about the photographs that were ID only.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you had to manipulate these.
I enhanced it, yes.
Sure. By manipulating various settings,
Yes,
okay, including, you said contrast,
yes,
brightness,
yes.
and tone,
And saturation.
and saturation.
Those are the type of manipulations or enhancements that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at them and I'll just to see what is visible.
And which of those settings did you use to manipulate this photograph?
I'll feel that would be hard to turn because I'm using a slide rule to get the best clarity.
You don't know?
As far as the exact resolution,
Yes, sir. What did you increase the contrast, decrease the contrast?
this one, I added more contrast to get color,
So
to try to separate the colors.
how much contrast did you add to separate the colors?
Again, I used a slide rule on it. I'm not taking exact measurements.
So
But I had to enhance the photograph to see it clearly.
so you would agree that your manipulation of the photograph was imprecise? Is that what I hear you saying?
Objection, that's not what he said at all.
That's exactly what he said, Judge. He's using a slide rule and he doesn't know what it was.
I don't think that goes to precision, this goes to his ability or interest in keeping measurements of how we adjusted it.
How about brightness? Did you adjust brightness on this?
The program I use is Microsoft Picture Manager. When you open up the editing buttons,
Yes, sir.
you have a slide rule for each one of those.
And you have the option to record what you have changed. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you document what you changed?
I don't write the numbers down. No, I just find the best clarity I am and see what I see.
Don't you think that would be important so that people could evaluate your work later on down the road?
I guess it could help.
You'd agree it would be helpful?
It would be helpful, but they also have the option of doing the same thing.
Sure, but we don't know what you did to it. That's the thing, right?
But I'm,
Because we aren't there with
You
you.
let him answer. Go and answer, if you want to finish with your answer, sir.
When I'm looking at this, I'm sliding the scale and it's increasing. So if you want numbers, I mean, I could have to write all these numbers down. What is it showing? When did it start developing? When do I get the best clarity? Now, can I get a better clarity by going to a different type of enhancement, like a desaturation? Black and white pictures gives you the best clarity of anything because it separates the color. So I used all to try to get the best contrast to see if I can understand what this is. And then that's how I was able to see that this, in my opinion, were finger marks of possible blood.
And in order to see the possible blood, you also had to change the tone and saturation, didn't you?
This picture here had no desaturation in it.
No desaturation,
But
you
I
just take,
did view it in desaturation. It did not give me the better clarity.
so you did affect the tone of the picture, is that correct?
Correct. I do a sliding scale and get it to a certain number.
And you changed the color to make it more red and visible.
No, sir, that's not what it is.
No, that's not what you're doing here?
I changed the picture to get a better clarity and a better observation of what I'm viewing. It does change the color, but that's not what my purpose is. My purpose is to where I can get clarity on what it is I'm seeing.
The second page of the ID only exhibit, how did you manipulate this?
As far as the second, are you talking about the second close-up? Because I do it in stages. I got the original picture, a little closer, and then even closer.
Yes, sir, the
Is this the
photograph
third
was
one?
on this. No, sir, it's the second one. The one on the screen.
You should know which one it is.
One,
It's his pictures.
two,
One at a time.
three.
That was the order that I gave, and that's why he's, we put that picture first. I can't help it, the way before recording it.
Want to rearrange those? So
I don't know how they're supposed to go, Judge.
I can give the answer,
I
Judge.
think the witness described it as
Tell us-
picture,
tell us
closer,
the
and even
correct
closer.
Don't mind.
This is the original picture. That's what's in the crime scene.
Like page 3, the collective exhibit.
Yes, sir. It's the third one.
All right.
This is the second one. This is after I've got the best clarity. I zoomed in. It's saved. It has that.
That's page 1 of the collective
That's
exhibit.
page one. This picture here is just a closer zoom in of this. No changes between the two.
Which is page 2 of the collective.
Yes, sir. It's the same picture, just a little closer
So all you've done is you've adjusted the zoom on
between those
the
two.
third picture, which
Correct.
is actually the second.
No other change.
No other changes,
No.
none whatsoever. Thank you. Sir, when you reviewed all of the crime scene photographs, do you believe the maroon colored sheet to be in the position as it was found by the Chattanooga Police Department?
I have no idea. It was, the pictures what I have to go by is the body cam, which I observed and enhanced, and the crime scene pictures. So I had both to use. The body cam videos, I would have to go back and look. I don't know if it's exact, but I know a lot of different changes happened between the body cam and the sheet, and it involved the bed. So I would have to look again at the body cam pictures.
I'm asking about the crime scene photographs.
Crime scene photographs, I couldn't tell you how it was, but that's how it was when it was documented when the crime scene pictures were taken.
Okay. Did you find a crime scene photograph that showed that sheet in a different position?
If I did, I do not remember. That was the best picture that I had, but it possibly could have been,
Possibly could have been,
yes.
but you don't know.
If I see it, I might remember. I don't remember it right offhand.
And you're basing your opinion based upon the height that fingerprint is off of the floor, is that correct?
Couldn't, just, I don't know how tall the bed was.
Don't know how tall the bed was at all?
It wasn't measured.
You didn't measure it during your 2 trips into the,
When I got there, the bed had been distorted, the foam mattress was partially moved over. So no, all of that had changed. Even the mattress heights would have been different.
so really, you can't render any opinion at all, other than it looks like it might be fingerprints. Swipes.
Not swipes, transfer.
Transfers, okay, transfers.
To me, when I asked the picture, I noticed the position where it was at.
Mhm.
I went back and looked how it appeared in the body cam and stuff, and it's been a while. But to me, it looked like linear pattern stains, transfer stains, that in my opinion were finger marks. I
But you
can't
can't-
tell about the palm, but the finger marks.
You can't say who left them.
No, sir.
You can't say under what circumstances they were left.
No, sir.
You can't determine male or female.
No, sir.
You can't determine size.
There's no scale.
So all you could say is that there are linear blood transfers on a maroon sheet that you don't know if it was in the original position.
That's not what I said. I said possible, but
Possible blood. You don't even know.
it wasn't tested.
It wasn't tested. Let's talk about that. You were aware that that item was collected,
Correct.
and based upon your review and the generation of these, this collected exhibit for ID only, you of course made a recommendation that, hey, this is an important piece of evidence, right?
Oh, yes, very important.
And you conveyed that recommendation, right?
Conveyed it.
That, hey, this is an important piece of evidence that needs to be looked at, right?
Yeah, that was my opinion.
Sure. And did you share that opinion? Is what I'm asking.
I advised it, I sent the pictures to the attorney.
Sent the pictures to the attorney and said, hey, this is important.
Say, yeah, look at this.
Look at this. This is blood transfer.
This is important. It's transfer stain.
Transfer. You said, hey, I think it's possible blood transfer stains in this photograph that you sent to defense counsel.
Yes.
And you did that, of course, geez, a long time ago, didn't you?
No.
When did you do that?
When I saw the patterns that I saw when I visited in the bedroom, once I started getting to discover, I started enhancing it. I went through, enhanced a lot of pictures. I didn't see it first. So later on, I went back, and that was probably sometime last year. That
So
I
sometime,
went and started concentrating solely on the bed.
so sometime last year being when?
That I don't remember. I mean, I might be on my time sheets and stuff, but that's about it.
Was it by email, letter, memorandum?
No, I showed it to him.
Showed it to him in person? So he's had pictures for how long? Huh?
A day,
A day? You gave it to him yesterday?
around that time, yes. We haven't printed off.
I thought you said that it was last year.
That's when I started going through the photographs observing. But then, once it wasn't tested, it was a process of me seeing what was done with this thing.
When did you manipulate those photographs, sir?
I would have to look at the date, it was sometime in the last few months.
So at least a few months?
Yes.
You are aware, sir, that Jasmine Pace was in fact shackled and handcuffed, aren't you?
I've seen the photographs, yes.
You know how many times she was stabbed?
I've read his medical exam report, yes, sir.
How many times?
It said in the report 60.
Are you aware that Jason Chen contaminated the crime scene,
Anybody went in that apartment contaminated the crime scene?
including you?
Yes. But the crime scene was released and complete when I read it. The keys were back in the possession of the family.
Including you, you said yes, right?
Correct.
Mr. Weiss, when he walked in with you?
Anybody that walked in that door.
That's right. Sir, I'm gonna start showing you some photographs that are in evidence, okay?
Okay.
You described blood drops, or was that prosecution? how would you describe the reddish stain that we see at the intersection of the two yellow, I guess, distance or length markers?
Just for the purposes of, I have like.
Can you just,
Question. To point it out, is there a pointer or something?
absolutely, I'll put your.
I have it.
For the record, sir. This one is going to be exhibit 149, 5. Do you agree? Same photo on the screen?
Yes.
First page says 149.
Yes.
If you prefer to look at paper, you can do that too. Okay. How would you describe what we see right here? I'm circling in green up on the screen.
Okay.
The substance right there.
All right.
In your, based upon your training experience, what does that look like?
Without going into pulling up the lab results, it appears to be a blood stain.
A blood stain, would you describe it a drop?
The picture is not clear, but I will point this out. This is level, flat,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got a mark that runs down. Therefore, to do that, the blood had to come at some type of angle and then run down and pool on the flat surface. So I would classify that as an impact stain.
An impact stain.
Yes.
What, when you were testifying earlier this morning before the lunch hour, you described what cast off looks like. Do you recall that?
I described that here just a minute ago, I think.
Sure.
Linear.
Even before.
The linear patterns.
The linear patterns, that's right. But you described the shape of the individual drops when they impact, right? How would you describe that?
A cast-off stain is a blood drop that has force behind it instead of just drips, which is gravity. Something forced the blood drops off of an object, and they started traveling until they hit something, or gravity takes over and they start dropping. You'll see the angle change.
Sure.
On the bathroom stain, there was 2 or 3 drops that I could see clearly and determine a directionality, and a couple of them were different directions, indicating to me, and in my opinion, the linear stain was being developed, but some of the smaller blood stains were losing the velocity, so gravity took over and they started changing position.
Sure.
Now, as far as being a cast off, it can be construed as one, but without further testing,
But would you describe it as perhaps a directional blood spatter? Would that be a different way to describe it, perhaps?
directional blood stain.
Blood spatter with direction,
Oh, yes, it indicates direction.
indicating direction. Okay, so
That's
blood
what I-
spatter indicating direction.
Once it strikes something, it's in movement. So the stain is not going to end up as a 90 degree. It's going to have movement and travel, continue traveling in that same direction.
And when you have a droplet of blood with velocity behind it, right, obviously arcing because of the force of gravity pulling it back down. Right?
All of them don't arc. It's just
Well,
this thing did, this thing did. Some of your, even cast offs can go low, can go high. It doesn't necessarily have to have an arc.
Even bullets have arcs, or everything falls.
How high did it get first? What I'm saying is you don't know where the top of the arc is and it starts coming down. Some cast offs are going to be straight because there's no height to it or decrease. Depending on the force and the distance, that's when you start losing the velocity of the stain.
In this case, where in the bedroom did you observe those blood spatters with direction indicated? In the bedroom now.
In the bedroom,
Yes, sir.
directional, I believe it's just this,
Just that.
if I remember correctly.
And you did a thorough search of the crime scene when you were there those 2 times, right?
Not a thorough one, no, sir. I was there after CSU, observing what I saw, took pictures of what it looked like. kind of examined some things, but I did not know what the police had collected, where things had been. I did make observations. But as far as thorough searching, like picking the bed up, moving it around, I did not do that.
Did you see any blood spatter with direction indicated in the bedroom, other than what we see on the screen?
From what I remember right now, no.
The only room that had any appreciable amount of blood spatter with direction indicated was the bathroom. Isn't that right?
The only impact spatter in another room would have been just the bathroom because nothing was observed in any photographs.
Okay, fair enough. Next photo is 146-1. Okay. You recognize this location based upon your time that you spent in Mr. Chen's apartment?
Yes, you're standing in the doorway leading from the kitchen area into the bathroom, you see the bedroom in the far distance.
And you do see the evidence markers?
Yes.
Okay. And how would you describe the type of flooring that we see here in the bathroom area? Can you see the darkened areas of grout between the individual tiles?
Yes.
There,
Yes,
there. What does that indicate to you, sir?
and I saw that it appeared to be dried blood or possible blood.
Dried blood, possible blood.
Yes.
Fair enough. When you were in Mr. Chen's apartment, did you observe any, areas of carpet that had been removed?
Yes,
Where were those in this photograph?
there was a large swatch right here that was collected. You can see the underlayment when I was there.
Okay. Anywhere else?
Right in this area,
Number 6?
I guess that's on the carpet. It's that area, the transition from carpet to tile.
Okay. Those were, in fact, tested,
Yes,
and they were, in fact, blood.
yes,
And they were Jasmine Pace's blood.
yes.
Now I'm going to show you another photograph from the bathroom, okay?
Okay.
This is 179-1,
Correct.
okay? What does it show?
You see stains, these here, going in, for this purpose, to clarify, it's going in like the 11 o'clock position on the clock. These here.
Sure.
This one looks to be going about the 10 o'clock position.
Let me see if I can zoom in.
But before you do, you see the rundown here,
The what?
the discolorization of the wall?
Sure.
That appears to be the blue stars.
Blue star reagent?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to zoom in for you, okay? And that you would agree, sir, that the blood spatter with that you just described is above and to the left the door frame that we can see in 179-1.
Correct.
Which would mean that it would be well over 6 feet off the ground.
Okay. Yes.
Standard size door, you were there, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's not like it was a half door.
I agree with you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. And the items that you described as potentially being blood spatter would be where?
This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, here, 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 here. And small cluster here with about 5 or 6.
And the kind of darker areas adjacent to those items, artifacts that you describe on the wall, is what you believe to be blue star reagent.
Yes, that's what blue star normally looks like after use and it dries.
And the red stuff on the wall is what blood looks like when it normally dries, right?
Unless it was tested and confirmed to be blood, it appeared to be blood.
Okay. It's like it appears to be blue star reagent.
Correct.
Did it qualify with any kind of possible blue star? You said it was blue star, right?
That's my opinion, that's what it is, yes.
And it's also your opinion that that's blood, right?
I believe so.
You would agree, sir, that the general direction that all of those blood spatters indicate points down towards the opening of the door?
These here came from this direction.
Mm-hmm.
This one's slightly different, this one's slightly different. But you can, there's a technique they use to pull strings off of things, but you actually have to physically be there to do it.
Sure.
To get the angle,
Right.
the directionality, and so you can position. What I observed is these two things are prominent. This one's starting to slightly drop off, this one's dropping off. Some of these, I can't measure, but they could be 70 to 90 degree impact angles.
Sure, and that could be indicative, as you testified just a little bit ago, of them being small and gravity.
Well, these here, yes. When they get closer to 70 and 90 degrees, then the source is now closer or lower in parallel to those things. So can I tell you how they were developed? I can tell you they was different from the others. You see these little dots here? You can't measure them because but they're more 70 to 90 degrees, which means the source these are coming from is coming more straight than it is an arc. Now, there's multiple reasons that could happen. All I can tell you is these things here are coming from down, going this direction, and this direction. Now, those are changing because of the velocity and the gravity.
They don't have as much momentum because they're lighter.
That's what it appears to me.
Okay, in your expert opinion.
Yes,
Okay, so in blood pattern analysis.
yes.
Thank you, sir. Let me zoom out. Okay. And you would agree, sir, if we go back, where the direction is indicated, we put it in close proximity to where? We continue on the arc down to the ground.
It's gonna be up here. Now, you're trying to position it, I can't tell you the position.
No, I'm asking if we continue to draw that line down the wall,
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
See, yeah, it would go down across the doorway.
okay, down to the direction of evidence marker 6, right?
I'm trying to understand that question.
Sure. If we continue that line down, you would agree, sir, it would get in fairly close proximity to in between 6 and 7, correct?
It's gonna be close, but you have to take into consideration, you've got trim around that door.
Sure.
It stands out maybe a half inch. I'd have to measure trim, it's been a while. So
So maybe it would be closer to 5 because you've got a shadow of the trim, right?
if to say yes, it would come closer to 5 than it would 6.
Closer to 5.
Because you've got the door frame.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense to me, sir. It really does. So it would be closer to that large, dark area of the tile and grout, right there in the center.
Again, without properly measuring them and getting a better idea, I would have to say this general area.
Okay, which would be the bathroom.
In the doorway areas of the bathroom.
Sure. Doorway area of the bathroom is where you believe the direction of those blood spatter with direction came.
And I'm classifying them as impact stains.
Impact
Force
stains
behind them.
with force behind them
Can I-
indicating direction.
Can I give a solid opinion that cast off? No.
I'm not asking if they're cast off,
Okay.
sir. But they're impact stains with direction indicated.
Which is
I need to write that down. okay?
blood drops with some type of force.
Exactly. Which could have come from, say, repeated stabbing,
Could come from anything.
but that's one of the possibilities.
That's one of the
right?
possibilities.
And you described it as impact, and I just want to make sure I get it.
That's the clarification we use in our standard definitions.
Impact stain with direction. Thank you, sir. I'd like to talk with you very briefly about crime scene contamination. Sir, in your expert opinion, would a crime scene be contaminated by removing a deceased person from the scene of a homicide?
Most definitely.
So that's contamination. Were you aware that that's what Jason Chen did in this case?
Yes,
Would you agree that cleaning up blood with isopropyl alcohol would be contaminating the crime scene?
yes, sir.
How about cleaning up blood with hydrogen peroxide?
Yes,
Also contamination. Were you aware that Mr. Chen did both of those things?
I think there was a bottle of hydrogen peroxide there.
Were you aware, sir, that Mr. Chen had purchased throughout the course of the 23rd of November numerous bottles
I
of
saw
hydrogen
the, I
peroxide?
think of Walmart and Walgreens videos. And I also observed the items on the couch or food.
I believe it was. I think it's been referred to as couch, but I do believe it was. Sir, would you agree that disposing of a murder weapon contaminates the crime scene?
Yes. And that's part of what I was mentioning, things were brought in and things were taken out. It's included.
Sure. Would you agree, sir, that remaining at the scene of a crime and walking around in it for a period of a day and a half would contaminate the crime scene?
Walking through it one time.
Sure. Were you aware that from the 23rd to the 25th, Mr. Jason Chen was in his apartment?
I believe that I'm unsure of being absolute as far as how long it was before he left, but I know there was a period of time.
If you were to learn that through the testimony of an expert that Mr. Chen departed for Nolensville, Tennessee on the 25th, and that his cell phone his cell phone is showing a consistent location of 110 Tremont Street area. If he was indeed in that apartment for that day and a half, it would contaminate the crime scene further than what we have already talked about.
Correct. Anytime someone goes in or comes out, you've got a chance of losing or gaining additional stuff.
Would you agree that wheeling a suitcase?
I'm sorry?
Would you agree that wheeling a suitcase through a bloody crime scene
Yes, and
would
I
contaminate?
tried to see if I could see those patterns
But you
because of
couldn't,
the wheels.
because the cleanup job was so good.
I wouldn't say that.
Didn't see track on.
No further questions. Right. Just a brief. In the pictures of the maroon sheet bedspread, you said you changed the brightness, contrast, and tone.
That's what's being observed in the photographs here. The desaturation removes all color. And depending on the scale, how much you use it, it goes to completely black and white. I did that just to see if I can see anything better or additional. I couldn't, so I did not use the desaturation.
Is that something that is part of a crime scene reconstruction expert's job?
That's a broad field. It's a tool I use to examine hidden blood. I try to see what doing this lets me see better. Sometimes a picture can tell you one thing, but there's additional information there.
So the defense said in opening that Jason Chen killed Jasmine Pace in his bedroom, and after he blacked out, and then coming to. I'm gonna object. That's not evidence. I said this.
I think you should use the hypothetical. You say hypothetical.
Hypothetical. If Jason Chen killed Jasmine Pace in the bedroom, and he crawled to the bathroom. Well, first off, before he crawled to the bathroom, if he killed Jasmine Pace with a knife in the bedroom, would we heard from Dr. Cogswell about the injuries? Would that cause a lot of blood?
The injuries,
Yes.
most definitely.
Would it cover Jason in a lot of blood?
I believe he would have had, oh yes, he would have.
Would he have been saturated?
Very, very good chance, and different parts, depending on where the saturation is, it could be from the top of his head down to his feet. You never know because you don't know the positioning and the changing of position, what's going on to cause such things. As I said, impact stains are projected blood. Any movement of a bloody object has a potential to leave that object.
So he crawls to the bathroom and he's covered in blood and say he takes off his shirt. Could it have caused those stains that you and General Moyle saw there in the bathroom?
Without more information on these things, there is a wide variety of things that could have caused that stain, including clothing, cut on your arm, removing something or moving, it's just hypothetical. If he is moving Jasmine, her body is moving also. It could have, it's kind of high for that, but there's different things that could have caused that.
We're playing supposition games now. Could he have gone in the bathroom and taken a shower and took off his shirt and it had blood on it and caused the blood stains on the wall?
Do you think, sir?
Yeah,
you think
anything's
fingerprints can be
possible.
taken from fabric like the bedspread?
When I teach or discuss, you never know until you try. But in this case, with the coloring of this and what I can assume the texture is, I would be surprised if ridge detail comes out. But you might be able to get a good indication of the size of the hand, the width, the length, the width of the fingers. You could I think you would be able to get additional information if TBI had processed it.
Can you redirect or recross based on what I asked?
There you are.
Thank you, sir. You may sit down.
Thank you.
Either side of the field, we need to argue beyond what's already been argued.
There you are.
I do find, as I said before, that Mr. Lawrence can be called as an expert in the field of blood spatter, blood stain pattern analysis, and interpretation, as well as crime scene reconstruction. He can give an opinion regarding how the evidence was poorly collected in this case in terms of where the actual stabbing occurred, meaning that he can't just talk about random, unconnected aspects of the crime scene if it doesn't go to the issue that is at issue, which is whether this was a heat of passion killing or premeditated, which means that you can testify as to whether or not there were drag marks. You can testify as to whether or not possible sizes of the finger stains that look like they came from fingers could have been examined further. I don't see how the cast off is relevant or is helpful to the jury in this case, since he said it could have come from a towel or from a stabbing. However, it's connected enough to the other issues so we can testify about cast off and what it means. And of course, as we talked about earlier, he can testify as to whether or not the blue star reaction came from whether or not his opinion that it was the size of it was caused by contamination and people tracking through it. Again, he won't be able to testify as to any physiological opinion about the position of the body, Jasmine's body, when it was stabbed.
There's one more, Your Honor. It was the differences in the scenes that he documented when Officer Clayton Brayson went through versus when CSU went through. He developed a PowerPoint that It's been provided to the defense because it was shown in the suppression hearing, and they had access to it then, of the differences between them.
Okay, so that's something you don't need an expert for. A lay witness can certainly point out those differences. You can do it through this witness if you wish. Is there any type of, I don't think there's any type of opinion you can get about that though?
No, I just want to make sure that that was a permissible,
Line of inquiry,
examination.
certainly. Okay, as far as the opinion aspects, they're limited to what I said. Drag marks, whether or not the hand print, the print that looked like it came from a hand could have been used to develop measurements, cast off, and the Blue Star reaction, how it came from, in his opinion, contamination rather than whether or not the victim was actually killed in the room with lit up Blue Star.
And is there any limiting, may I ask you just, Mr. Lawrence, what did you do as part of your investigation?
Yes, you can certainly ask him that for sure. And I'm sure there are lots of things that, you know, any investigator can testify to. The pictures that he took, you know, that's facts, testimony. You can certainly testify to that. As far as the opinions, they're limited to what the ruling momentarily ago was limited.
I don't want to mess up.
All right.
May I just clarify?
Sir.
I may ask him about what he did as part of this investigation. And regarding and I can ask him about his factual questions about the differences he saw versus the body cam versus the CSU pictures. But then regarding to the evidence, I may ask him about how we believe the evidence was collected for them. And he can say there were no drag marks. He can talk about the possible sizes of the fingers. It could have been examined further. He can say that a stabbing actually occurred.
Sorry, what? The last part?
He can say that a stabbing actually occurred.
A stabbing actually occurred.
Is that what the court said at the first?
No, but I think that you can factor that into the opinion. I think everyone agrees that that's what happened.
He can testify regarding the bathroom.
The cast off aspect.
The cast off
Is
aspect.
that correct?
And as it relates to anything with General Boyle, I would assume. Cross-examination go. Yes.
Well, the things we just talked about, and also the fact that the Blue Star effect was caused from contamination, not from, you can't necessarily conclude that's where the attack happened. You can certainly say that.
And then you can talk about the contamination.
Right.
But
Contamination, as far as the Blue Star effect being caused from contamination, not necessarily where the victim was bleeding or the defendant was carrying blood.
You can't give an opinion about, you can give an opinion about that investigator Crawford is, or he believes him to be incorrect, that Jasmine Pace was killed in the bathroom. His opinion is that no investigator can say that for sure.
Yes.
And then the court is excluding, limiting the witness from testifying about the position of the body, Jasmine Pace.
And not limiting, excluding.
Okay.
Yes.
Understood. Excluding that. And then excluding the defense wound ligature remarks, anything about the body.
Correct.
Okay. That's the way that I understand it.
Right. Parties ready to proceed? You need a break.
Take a break.
We're ready to go, Judge. We have several breaks.
We've been in session for this issue for a while. It's, all right, we'll be back at 4:15.
Oh, this has been something. Oh my goodness. I still, I'm still a little confused as to why why the contaminated. I get that, yes, people walked through there, they dragged maybe blood, maybe cleaning supplies, and then when they sprayed Blue Star, they got false positives. It looked like blood was places it wasn't. Maybe, yeah, I get that. I understand that part. I get that part. I understand that. How does that speak to premeditation? That's the part where the disconnect in my brain is. That's the part I don't understand. I just don't understand. I think I'm just going to quit trying to put who's testifying because I cannot hear these names. I don't know what is wrong with me. I could have sworn with this guy. I was like, I heard this guy's name. They said Watts. I heard Watts. It's not. It's Lawrence. How in the heck did Lawrence sound like Watts? Speak, people. Enunciate. Use a microphone. And I don't get how does it go from first degree premeditated to voluntary manslaughter? Aren't they missing like a second degree in there? First, second, voluntary manslaughter? They're missing a step. 60 stab wounds. 60. Don't they say, like, if you pick up something to hit somebody, that is intent? If I were to pick this up and slam it into somebody, even if they ticked me off, I chose to pick that up and hit somebody with it. If they fall down and crack the back of their head on my kitchen floor, my dining room floor, and die, that's the intent, because I intended to pick that up and hit them. And I'm in trouble. I know, we haven't. We haven't. And whether or not you scream, whether or not there's a lot of blood or a little bit of blood, or none of that speaks to premeditation. And that's what I can't get my brain around. And you're like, well, you don't see anything written down. There's no text messages with somebody else to plan it. No, because he did it all himself. But the fact that there were 60 stab wounds, that in itself is premeditation. because he could have stopped at any time. He chose, the first one, that could have been because she was coming at him. But why 60? Yeah, but doesn't that kind of amount to the same thing? Because I mean, look at Sarah Boone. It was unintentional, but it was still second degree murder. Maybe I'm just totally confused about the whole thing. I have never been this confused watching a trial before. And he is 100% guilty. And I'm still confused. Which is exactly the job of the defense. He's doing his job, he's earning his money. He's glad I'm not on his earth. Now I don't know what I would. Seriously, man. I don't know what. I really have to stop and think. I don't know how I don't know how I would vote right now.
Just so I understand, Your Honor,
Maybe it
is,
was
so
an
I
agreement.
think
Maybe it
the
is.
jury is excused during or here. And so how will the court proceed at this?
I'll recognize him as an expert and seek your recommendation.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, understood.
But then why 60 times? I don't buy the blackout thing. I definitely don't buy that.
Are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor, state ready.
We're, yes, sir.
I can bring you through, please, when they're ready. Yes, sir.
Like I said, I've never been so confused
Not a question.
watching a trial
You don't
before.
have to, but everyone
When
else
someone
is.
was so obviously guilty.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. As we talked about from day one, pretty much. There were times when we need to take matters outside your presence. Sometimes they're not significant, sometimes they are very significant. This was one of those times. We're ready to proceed now. At this point, the court will recognize the witness, Mr. Johnny Forms, expert in fields of crime scene reconstruction and blood-stain pattern analysis and interpretation.
Mr. Lawrence, did the defense counsel reach out to you regarding this case?
Reached out to our company, I'm not sure how, but I received an email on December 7th, 2022.
And once your business was retained, what did you do?
I personally talked to you by phone, and you advised me that you had access to Mr. Chen's apartment. And wanted to know what I thought and what should be done.
So what you did?
I said, well, we need to see if we can get in there and so I can see the thing. I like to physically go to the scenes when I can. I want some documentation or observation, maybe.
So at any point, did you go to
December, I met several people there. Interviewed Department Jason Chen, 210, Department 210.
and what did you do on that day?
I took photographs, visual observation. When I talk about visual observation, when I go into a crime scene, I stop. I want to visually see everything there. Now, this is after the fact of the police investigation. I want the scene to tell me something. So I'm meticulously go through there, observing, and I take photographs, even though they're not like the police department. I want to photograph what I've got. So I started taking photographs, observations, looking around.
So can you go through what you did and how you did it?
When we walked in, myself and Miss Alexander actually went through the apartment. But one thing I noticed when I went in, everybody was in, the door shut off by itself. And the story was that I'd received. It was different than that. So that was an observation that clicked. So I started taking photographs in the apartment, and this is more of what they call a loft. You've got a living room, it turns into a kitchen, it goes into a bathroom, it goes into a bedroom.
That's not what a loft is.
One way in and out, which is the front door. But because of codes, regulations, you've got to have an emergency layout also. So there's a patio door in the bedroom with a railings. But if there's an emergency, you can escape through there if the front door is locked. So that was my observation of the layout. So I carry an LED flashlight with me, and I do what we call cross light. Because when you shine a light on something specific, it might bleed it out. It may wash it out. So what you want to do is a cross light. That means holding the light down, shooting across what you're looking at instead of straight down. Therefore, you can see patterns. You see a lot better. You can actually see dust on the floor that way. And when I started doing that, I started seeing what looked like bloodstains. I say look like bloodstains because I have no idea what the police have done, but with my experience, it appeared to be blood. And I started seeing wiping marks. Now there's two different types of wiping marks. It's considered a transfer stain. And what I mean by transfer is blood has come from one object to another object. So it's transferring from one to the other. You've got wipe stains, and then you have swipe stains. So just put an S in front of the wipe. The difference is this. If there's liquid on this counter, and I run something through it on my hand, that is considered a wipe. I'm wiping. Wipe stain is if you have blood on the object, and the counter didn't, then you're swiping it onto the counter. So that's the difference if I mentioned wipe and swipe. But it's considered a type of transfer stain. I was seeing marks similar to wipes and swipes on the floor with what appeared to be blood. In the living room,
So no second degree murder? Is that their equivalent of second degree murder? Intentional or knowingly killing a person in a state of passion due to adequate provocation. That almost sounds like like what's it called? Extreme emotional disturbance. When, like, like if you come home and you catch your husband in bed with another woman and then you shoot him, like the provocation must be such that it would lead a reasonable person to act in an irrational manner. That kind of makes me think of a situation like that. That's interesting.
I then progressed on into the kitchen area and then saw several more. Appeared clean, but there's grout marks. Anytime you got tiles, you got grout. It is very hard to clean up grout, as most people will know. And I saw what appeared to be dried blood within the grout marks of the bathroom. Now, this was photographed, and I also photographed some impact stains that was on the wall as you're walking into the bathroom, which to the left, but on the farthest wall.
What
Above
are
the towel rack. I'm sorry?
What are impacts?
Impact stains, surprisingly, it's a blood drop, just like dripping on the floor, but it has some type of force behind it. And when I mean force, something is moving that blood. A good example is if you cut your hand and you're standing there with your hand down, you're going to have drip stains. The stains look circular, sometimes like a bottle. Well, some of you might not know, but in the old day we had bottle caps. As you flatten them out, they had like some stars. Your 70 to 90 degree blood drop can cause that kind of stain, which means there's no movement in those drops. But as you walk and your arm moves and you move, any drops are coming down and you've got force behind you because when they hit, they're going to move, giving you an indication which direction they're going. They're going to form a tail pointing to which direction the blood stains go. So the stains on the wall in the bathroom looked like impact stains with showing some directionality on some and probably possibly 70 to 90 degree stains in another area in the same location. Then I proceeded into the bedroom. Now I am taking pictures. The kitchen and living room is very low light. It looked like a blue light bulb had been put into the floodlight area. Very low light. So I was having to use my flashlight. But once I come into the bathroom, it's like any typical bathroom, well lit, and the bedroom had lights well lit. So those were different. So when I stood in the bathroom taking pictures into the bedroom, I could see the living room is hardwood, the bathroom is tile. If blood falls on it, it's not going to absorb into the floor or the tile because it's a solid object. It can change direction because blood is going to flow, or any liquid actually, it's going to flow with the least resistance. So if the floor is not level, you're going to have blood flow going to the lower part until it gets to a part that can't go any further. So when it hits that tile, it will pool. A pool of blood is a continuous amount of blood, but it's going to pool up like a water puddle. It has nowhere to saturate to. But in the bedroom, it's different. You have carpet. Carpet will absorb the blood. Now, it's going to distort the stains because it's absorbing, and it's going to start spreading. Like if you've ever used a paper towel or something, you put it on a wet object, you see it growing. The water is growing. That's what happens when blood hits that absorbent object. There was a stain directly in front of me, and there was an area. I don't remember what the marker numbers were, but it had been cut out of the carpet. You can see the blue underlayment. So police had gathered that. It looks like an evidence collection. The bed is on the left, and I could partially see some blood. It really didn't tell me nothing at that time. The reason I'm taking pictures is so when I get back to my office, I can enhance the pictures. I can make them clear to me. I can desaturate them, enhance them to where it brings clarity, and you can actually see better that you can't see physically looking at it. So I documented all this in the pictures. again, I had no idea what had happened previously with the police department. I did not receive anything from the police department or through Mr. Wise until almost mid.
Objection narrative. Is there a question?
So this is like working a puzzle without a box top. So you have to question everything and proceed with your investigation as if everything is related. So I documented everything. Once we left there, eventually I went back to Nashville and I started looking at these pictures by enhancing. First, I make a copy of it. I take what my pictures are. I make a second copy, put my copy on a drive to get it off my computer so I don't accidentally hit the wrong one. But then I use my working copy of photograph the picture. I will add color, delete color. I will turn it into what they call saturation. You remove all color, so it's black and white the whole day. Black and white gives you better clarity on contrasting surfaces, like a dark floor. If it's blood, it's going to be dark, so you might not see everything. But when you enhance it, desaturate it, it's going to stand out more. One thing that caught my attention was in the bedroom, as you're walking in, there is a stain just to the left on the floor next to the bed, but it led under the bed. I said, something right about this. Why would the bed be back over that stain? Because again, I don't know what the place had already done. So I moved the bed. Oh, I'm sorry. I went back to the scene 5 days later because I had some questions. Type of markings, dark colored markings on that wall where the headboard was. I can see wipes, swipes, but I can also see movement. I can't say if it's wipes or swipes, but there's movement on that one digging police department. Instantly, something happened right here. I don't know what. I don't know what the police already know, but it stretched up 3-4 feet. So I don't know what's touching the wall coming into contact with it, but it's something I need to look at first. So once the bed is moved, I took some pictures of that. We left, and I turned the key into the apartment management company. It was a different location, and we left.
Did you do any other inspections or evaluations or examinations within the apartment other than those 2 times?
No, there was a lot of things I could tell the police had looked at, done, just about observation.
What did you see that the police had done?
They searched, they took the trap out from under the sink. Where, and the garbage disposal, I actually took a picture showing my hand under the hose to show it's not there. Now those evidence was gone. Really nothing
Come on.
about except not even used. But I was curious. I've got pictures, but nothing was processed or anything.
Were you aware, or could you tell that either the police department or the crime scene units had used Blue Star?
Yes,
What is Blue Star?
I'm old. In the old days, we used a chemical called aluminum. You put it in a spray bottle. You put it in a spray bottle, mix it with distilled water. You want to use distilled water because tap water sometimes has iron in it, which is a reaction from aluminum and Blue Star, depending on where you live. Blue Star, they mixed Blue Star up, and I saw indications of Blue Star had been sprayed in the bathroom where those stains are. And the way you can tell is it's a discolorization on the wall, and once it hits it, if there's a lot of liquid, it's going to start running. And you can see those run marks in the
Did that conclude your examination, or was there anything else of interest that you found during your investigation within the apartment?
As in all cases, I had many questions, but I knew I wasn't gonna get answers until I started getting the discovery. So it was, I did go back in January, but not in the apartment. But after that, it was several months before the discovery started coming in, and I started seeing exactly how the scene was worked. And the way I work a scene, I want to put myself as first person. One of the best tools we have now is body cams. So I wanted to look at the body cam videos of the two officers that went in first, because that gives me a perspective before anything happens. And then the crime scene pictures. So that's how I started my engagement once I got the discovery. It is very rare you're going to be at a crime scene that is not contaminated, because depending on the size of the area, how many people have been in there, if they've taken anything, if they've left anything, and you do leave stuff. Even officers, it's unavoidable. That's why the boot, wear boots, and you wear a suit, fabric suit, because just walking in there, you're going to leave something. DNA is so sensitive now, but you have things that are not there, and you have to wonder, is it because it was collected? So you want to look at the inventory of what was collected.
You said you watched the body cam video of the two officers.
I did.
Is that proper police protocol to enter into an apartment like that?
Yes.
And
You have to do what you have to. That takes high priority. You got to verify nobody's injured or hurt in there.
what was your understanding based on the discovery and evidence that you received about third parties or the Pace family?
When I first got involved in this, I had a very brief summary of information, and that was there was a missing woman, Miss Pace. The family was looking for her. They ended up in Tremont. They knocked on the door, and the door opened up. This is the information I had in 2022. Entry was made. There was a call. It was described as being.
Objection, Your Honor. That was hearsay, I'm sorry. I had a conversation about that.
Sustained unless it goes to the opinions that he can deliver later.
You don't need to talk about the context of that one.
At a different time, the police had, I guess, enough information to obtain search warrants. And then they went back, the different officers went to Tremont, entered the apartment with a search warrant. And that's when their investigation began.
And did the crime scene units, the Chinese police department, take pictures of the scene, have the occasion to compare the body cam to those pictures?
That's the way to describe this is if any of you have seen the Blair Witch Project, it's a movie to where it's first person view. The camera's constantly moving. You will get vertigo watching that over and over. You're going to feel sick. When I watched the body cam videos, there were two, which I enjoyed this because now I'm getting two perspectives of what's going on. It's capturing it. I'm seeing what is progressing through the scene. But I started getting vertigo because the more you watch it, the constant moving of the camera is going to make you feel like an amusement park. So you're going to feel dizzy. I have learned through my investigations, I want still pictures of those body cams. We have a digital forensics unit in our company. We took the body cams after I marked it because in the body cams, you have pre-enter of the apartment and post-enter of the apartment. I wanted from the time the door opened up until it went in until it came out. Now that is thousands of pictures off of a body cam. So we transferred the video to still pictures. The way that helps is I can click through each individual picture. If it's dark, I can take that, make a copy, and enhance it where I can lighten it up and you can see more. But why is this important? Because I'm seeing what the police saw the very first time they crossed over that threshold in the apartment. So I'm seeing now what the scene looks like as they first enter. Crime scene pictures won't tell you that, never do, because of some reason or another. But the body cam pictures is my best view of what happened, not what happened, but what the scene shows you. So then I take the pictures, I go through them, and then I start looking at the crime scene picture. That was there when the CSI got there and they started doing their thing. When you watch the body cam video, you see certain things. You don't see everything. You might thought you did, but there's going to be something that you didn't see. Turning them into stills, I can go through each picture and not identify, but say, look, I see this, and I can zoom in, zoom out. But it gives you better clarity of what you've got. But once I started looking at the crime scene pictures, I said, wait a minute, that ain't what I saw on the body cam. So I started comparing. I said, whoa, something happened between the officers entering and the crime scene people getting there, taking their pictures to document. Now, crime scene personnel, once they get there, they have no control what happened prior. Only once they get there, they have the same. So what I did, it's when you try to explain this, you don't get the point across. So I made a PowerPoint, body cam pictures to the photographs of the scene. And there was numerous things observed in this that was different.
Can we have the fence left up, please? Mr. Lawrence, if you could turn around for us and tell the jury what we see on the left and what we see on the right.
Okay. I do it this way so you can cross-reference and go and find what it is that I'm showing. This here is the information of the body cam. Shows you the date, the time. I'm not a computer expert, but I believe that is UTC time telling you the difference. It's an action body cam 3 with a serial number. This is body cam video on the left. This is crime scene pictures on the right. As you can see, the cabinets are closed. So why are they open? Then you see items on the table, boxes. Look at the position of the table. Now look at it here. Table moved, items on the table. Look at the couch. You got paper towels. You got a Nike bag. You can see the paper towel barely under the Nike bag. The Nike bag is now on top. This is also, and I'm sorry if I butcher his name, but I think it's Braystead. This is his video. Like I said, there's two body cams. I'm using Officer Braystead's here. It's crime scene photo 61 that was taken by the police. This here. This is the crime scene picture number 61. One quick thing. See these lights here? These are your floodlights. These are the ones that's got the blue tint to them.
I'm going to move to the next slide. Can you tell us the differences that you see here?
This is the second officer. They're slowly coming into, again, the items on the table compared to the items on the table. There's your items on the couch compared to the items on the couch. This is photograph 63. You see how the tint of the room has changed?
I can't even
It's
see
low
the
light.
first picture because of the.
So the body cam is trying to adjust to get proper light. That's why sometimes I have to enhance it to get a clear view. This picture is a great picture because it shows, it's the crime scene picture taken by the crime scene people. Very detailed. Again, the cabinets that are open, items on the couch and the items on the table that the table's been moved.
What differences do we see here? And what part of the apartment are we in?
Okay, he's standing in front of the front door looking to his right. This is a computer desk. Computer check. This is the time. He's moving in. It's probably the second picture. This is the crime scene picture. Look how the chair is positioned. Again, this is from when the officers went in that night until the crime scene picture. Items on the desk. Items on the desk. This is just the top of the shoe, and you'll see another frame of this in a minute showing the shoes and boxes are moved or missing. And this is crime scene photograph 67. This is the flashlight again, low light, so he's using an LED flashlight so he can see himself around.
There's been a lot of mentions of a smell of marijuana. I should have asked you this earlier. When you were in the apartment, did you smell marijuana?
Didn't smell it, no, sir.
Did you see any indication of
Did you see any indica?
marijuana use?
Was that a slip of the tongue?
That day, I don't remember, but there was what they call a bone, some kind of a glass or vial or something people use
Do you see it in this picture?
right there on the desk. I don't see it in this one. Well, unless it's, but if you're just looking at these pictures, you don't see it. That's the bathroom, and that's the bedroom. Now, the difference here is, again, the kitchen's got low light. Bedroom light is well lit. Position, look at the opening there compared to the opening here. You've got curtains. They're open here. One of them is open here, the rest of them are closed. The positioning of the clothing on the floor, the pair of underwear, it's changed position, and a lot of these have changed position. Items on the floor was really concerning to me because how are these things getting moved? Why are they changing position? Again, this is crime scene photograph 81.
What do we see here?
Standing in the bathroom, and I'm taking pictures of the bedroom. Again, the body cam, curtains and blinds position items on the bed. You've got something white. You've got something red. Pillow on the bed right here. It's a pillow with a black pillowcase on it. Position of items on the floor. Now, I am duplicating what I've seen, but it's just to help you understand. These doors are closed. Look at these items here. I don't know what that is, but it's not here. Items on the floor, doors closed, curtains and blinds have changed. You see the cord hanging down, the glass now. This is the red curtain that is closed here. This is crime scene photograph number 93. Again, from the bathroom into the bedroom, curtains and blinds.
So is this supposed to show that her family came back and did all these differences? What is the point of this? He wasn't in custody. Maybe he came back and made all these changes. Maybe he wasn't at his parents that whole time. Like, what is this supposed to prove?
Position items on the floor, pillow. That's important because of what we find here in a minute. This is the crime scene picture. Where's the pillow? Now you've got what looks like a knife blade. You've got this kind of still in the same position. This is here, but now there's a notebook on top. You have a notebook that's been added. You can't see these items in this picture. But you got a pillow on the bed, position of items on the floor, position of items on the bed, curtains and blinds position. This is photograph number 97. Now I'm standing at the foot of the bed. That's your pillow. Items position. The drawer is open on the little side dresser. Items on the floor here. Knife on the bed. Pillows are stacked on top of each other over here. The underwear is here, but you can't really see in that picture. This is picture 102. Get a different perspective. You got the knife. And the
Sorry, go ahead.
paper bag here, I don't see it here. Plastic bag. Now look at the cabinets here. They're pushed in. Items on the floor either missing or moved. And there's a file here, which I did not see in the body cam. This is photograph 107. That's your front door. Standing behind the futon, looking at the television. Again, it shows the items on the table. Now you see a better picture of the shoes and the boxes. The door's closed. We would, to keep it open, we would have to prop it open just so it stays open. It's like a hotel room door or something, but you open it, you go in, boom, slap behind. This is the other officer, I cannot remember his name right now. All of these body cams, pictures are coming from Officer Braxton. Picture number 65. The door closed, shoes in box position, items on the table. There's your boxes. See, you got a reddish brown box with a white tag, but here you got a white. It could be the same box turned over, but it's different from the crime scene. Like your notes when they first come in. And you can see the items on the table. I don't really see the bottom there.
Anything else?
Stuff on the couch is different, but as we discussed that earlier. I think that's picture 267. As you notice on the times, it's only been about 2 minutes.
Take it to Lawrence, as we turn around. The scene changed. Would you agree that the scene changed from when the officers went in versus when the CSU came?
It was very obvious.
Mr. Lawrence, I'd like to talk to you about how well the job that Chattanooga Police Department did in collecting evidence. Can you speak a little bit about the job
I don't
that the
disagree,
Chattanooga
Judy.
Police Department did in its collection efforts?
When you critique the work that was done, you have to understand different departments do things different ways. A lot of times they have standard operating procedures, which they have to follow. Is the way they do their investigation. No two works are the same, ever. There's always something different. People say, "I'll send them." Every one of them is different in some aspect. When the police department started their investigation on this, they had no idea what they were walking into. It's like the puzzle box without the pictures. Therefore, when you start collecting and documenting things, you get everything you think is important, everything, because you don't know what it's going to turn out to be. You want to get as much as you can so you can learn what happened. Let the evidence tell you what happened. They collected a lot of things, And this is without any idea what took place in that apartment. They didn't know it was the outcome. They didn't know who had been in there. All they know is this is the way this thing looks when they got there and started documenting. The evidence collection was good to a point, but some of the things that were collected, I did not see in photographs or what they we do a diagram. They do a crime scene diagram, which is a layout of the apartment. And it is supposed to document where everything collected came from. They put numbers on it. You take measurements. You want to know, you triangulate measurements. What that means is if my cup is sitting here, you've got to triangulate it, coming from two solid points, point A, point B. So when you put those in, boom, you know exactly where that item is sitting. Why is that important? It's in case you have to reconstruct the scene. You can put the scenes back exactly like it was when you were there. So you triangulate, get the distance. There were some items that was on the collection list that was not documented in the diagram. What you got, and you don't know if it's going to play a big part in your final outcome. I think they did a good job in collecting things with what knowledge they had going on. The items were turned in, they collected them, and then they used Blue Star, which Blue Star is a chemical that enhances possible blood. The old school is luminol. Blue Star is luminol plus 2 types of sodium. It gives a better indication, more visual. But there's certain guidelines you have to follow to use Blue Star. It is in the instructions, it's documented. The reason these guidelines are there is to get the best outcome. And from my observations in the crime scene pictures, some of the things wasn't followed. It's still a good job that it's illuminating. But what is that telling you? If it's possible blood, it's telling you there's possible blood throughout this whole area from the bedroom into the living room. About 4 foot wide, because that's the openings of doors that do only 3 foot, but you're opening in the kitchen. So you got about 4, max 5 foot area from the bedroom to the living room. Again, it goes back to what I described as a loft. If you come in and out of that apartment, if the window's not broke, you're using the front door. If you leave, come in the front door, go to the bedroom and come back, that's 2 tracks through whatever you're just eliminating. That's contamination. It might not be, but it's contamination. It's going to leave blood throughout. Now, dry blood is less likely to be moved, but if it's moist, wet, and let's just say if there was a cleanup, could it still be wet? Yes. But it's called a transfer state. Shoes walking across this floor is getting blood on the bottom of it. As they move, they're moving blood. So when you do the Blue Star, you have to put a minimum amount on it to light it up. You don't want to saturate because it's soaking wet then. Anything you start trying to do, you're going to have to let it dry. They did Blue Star. It indicated a lot of presumptive blood. So then they started doing what they called hemostat. In the old days, it was called the Kastle-Meyer test, which is phenolphthalein. You have to do a control test on the cotton swab with distilled water. You take a swipe, it will turn pink immediately to show you that, yes, it's possibly blood. Current times, it's called a hemostat. If you are diabetic and you check your glucose numbers, it's a little strip. You draw your blood, put a sample on a strip, put it in the machine. That's what a hemostat is, except larger and different type of test. Once you find what indicates it's blood, you want to take a sample of that with the hemostat. It will turn green immediately if it's blood. If there's no reaction, then it's a negative. Once you do that, you have to lay the hemostat or put it above where you collected it. That way you know when you go back, or if anybody else works this, they know where that stain came from. Those were not documented completely. But once you do the hemostat, now you say, oh, this could be potentially very important. So then there's a chemical called leucocrystal. It's a blood enhancer. It's clear liquid. It's also mixed with distilled water. But when you spray it like Blue Star, it stains whatever indicates blood. It turns it purple. Now you've got a pattern. If it's a shoe print, a hand print, anything, you've got a pattern in purple showing where that's at and what it is. So you have to document those. Each one, it's time consuming. You take it, you put scales on it. I'm sure you've probably seen some of the pictures that have little rulers or markers on it. You lay it next to it. And you need to show it overall, and then you do a 90-degree photograph straight down, showing what it looks like looking direct up. If you get that, any results, shoes, hands, fabric, like clothing on the floor or something, you can almost put people in positions. They lit it up with Blue Star to get an indication, but that's to help them find evidence. Because again, they don't know what they got. The hemistick said, okay, we need to collect items from here. But it would be better if it's documented.
Did they, and they didn't use the Luco?
They used Blue Star and the hemisticks. I did not see anything related to, if you see Lucos Crystal Valley, you're gonna, if you know what it is, it's gonna turn a purple stain.
So in the Blue Star pictures, did you see evidence of the cleanup?
From the distances, it would be hard, but my previous visit, that I saw the wipes and swipe, I knew something had been going on. But if you look at the pictures of the Blue Star, some sections are very wide, and that's on the hardwood floor. When you wiping blood or swiping it, it's spreading out. So it's becoming larger. Carpet's different. Carpet saturation, it's going to do it on its own.
Did you see any dragging marks through the Blue Star?
I know there should be some because of the information I get and discover because of what happened after the fact. You would expect to see either markings created by Ms. Pace or by the Suitcase, because Suitcase has wheels unless you pick it up. From the photographs I got out of the crime scene, I did not see anything. Not saying it's not there, but I could not see anything that I could come to a conclusion, yes, these are dirt marks.
Can you identify this picture?
Showing a maroon type sheet or comforter. Just looking at the picture, I cannot tell the difference. But it's one of the crime scene pictures, and I believe it's listed as item number 30. The big collected.
What item was collected, sir?
The maroon bed sheet.
And was that when you did your inspection of the apartment, was that sheet there?
No, the bed had the spongy type mattresses that they have now instead of the, and it was partially shifted around like the position and it changed, but there was no bed covers, which to me indicated the police had collected.
Did you do anything with this photograph?
Not at first. I really didn't think much of it because of the position of the bed, which was as you walked into the bedroom. But then when I moved the bed and I saw all this, I said, well, how did the blood stain get on here with this stuff over here? But then later with additional discovery that came in, I learned that the bed had changed positions. It had changed to where the headboard was to the far wall. The foot of the bed was toward the walking area, which exposed the wall, the saturation stains on the floor, but it put the handprint like that.
So what did you see on the maroon bed cover or comforter?
Looking at this, you really don't see nothing because of the contrast of the red. But I've enhanced it and zoomed in.
And how did you go about it?
I use a program, it's a free program that I have. People use it all the time to do their photographs. It is easy to edit photos in this program. You can add brightness to it or dim it, it's washed out. You can change the contrast to make it more clear. And then you can change the midtones, but then you can desaturate it. Desaturation is taking a color picture, taking all the color out, turning it into a black and white photograph. So I did each of those things because I started, when I looked closer, I saw an odd looking marking on the spreadsheet. So I enhanced it numerous different ways until I could get the best clarity. And then I saw what I later learned looked like finger impressions on the bed sheet.
And when you made those enhancements, did anything jump out to you?
Yes. This area here, in my opinion, had what looked like several finger marks in a red liquid, possibly blood, more than likely blood. But it's what you call a transfer. Something bloody has come into contact with the sheet. And it's similar to a swipe. Something bloody came to it instead of the sheet going, I was.
We turn off the light, please.
This is what I was seeing, but as you can tell, it's not really clear. You don't really get an idea of what it is, but you know it looks like it's possibly blood. This is to the left as you walk of the crime scene. When you walk into the bedroom, it's just to the left. This is after I enhanced the photograph to try to make this contrast better. Can you see the markings here? Again, it's just fingers, it's not a palm. And then I've zoomed in further. Right in here. And you notice the striations of the blanket. It's hard to see it because they contrast with each other. That's why that's important. Because I had the information that the bed had been moved.
Are you aware if this fingerprint, whatever it is, do you know if it was ever tested by the TBI?
It's item number 30, but I did not see anything to indicate this was tested in any way, either to determine if it's blood or it's very rare, especially on fabric. You're not going to get rich details. You might.
What are rich?
Rich details is what's on your fingers and feet. Fingerprints. A lot of times we can get fingerprints out of blood, especially with leukocytosis. I've done that on human skin before. But on fabric like this, because the fabric has got differences in height, you're not usually going to get rich details, but you can test it. Take measurements of these fingers. How wide are they? How long are they? because not all the time, sometimes women's hands are a lot smaller than men's. So the measurements of the fingers could indicate if it's a man or a woman's hand. Now, this part is not visible, so all I can see is linear marks consistent with fingers.
And why else might the, this picture be?
With the information I had of the markings on the wall and where the saturation stains in the bedroom, the wall would be here, saturation here, the bed would be here, right there, together.
If there had been measurements taken of this, could it have been compared to the size of Jason's hand?
You can compare it to see if it's close. I would be surprised, and I'm not a fingerprint expert, but I would be surprised if they could say beyond a reasonable doubt, it is Jason's, but is it consistent with a male compared to a female? And in this case, consistent with Jason's hand or Jasmine's hand. No, and no measurements at all. As you say, there's no scale with the crime scene picture. Now, how did they miss it? Because you can't see it. When you're in there, when they're taking their pictures, the contrast in there, until you go through your pictures and enhance it, it is very hard to see this stuff. But they did send it in to be tested.
It was sent in to be tested, but it wasn't.
Correct.
Investigator Crawford testified earlier in this trial that he believed that Jasmine Pace had been killed in the bathroom. Would you agree with that statement?
No.
Why not?
Let me clarify that. The wording was killed. Where Miss Pace died, there's no way you're gonna know. You can get indications of where events took place, but there is nothing in this case that shows exactly her position, where she was at when she died.
If Jasmine, something happened in the day, is that obvious?
Yes, it did. There was activity, markings on the wall, saturation stains on the floor, which after the carpet was pulled up, saturation stains underneath were smaller. Again, that's your actual stains. That's on the floor under the carpet, because the carpet is distorting the stain. It's saturated, it's growing. So if you want a true identity of what this is, you look at the floor, because that's your stain, because that's where the majority of the blood is seeping through.
So, Investigator Crawford and other investigators talked about cast off in the bathroom. What is cast off?
Cast off is a type of impact stain. Again, impact stains are caused when a blood drop has some type of force behind it, sending it to a different location. The blood will travel depending on how much force is behind it. And to give you an example, an explosion or a gunshot, the blood stains are going to be very, very small because there's a lot of force behind it. A beating is going to be bigger. Somebody just bleeding for trauma, it's going to be much larger. But an impact stain is blood drops that have left some type of object. Unless you know for sure what it came from, it could be numerous of them. But it travels until it hits something or gravity takes over and starts pulling the stain down. It will go as far as it can with the force, but when the force is reduced, the stain starts down.
Did you observe any cast off in the bathroom?
I observed some markings on the wall, which was above a towel rack. I would call them impact stains. Can I say beyond a reasonable doubt is a cast off? Very possible, but without more information, I wouldn't lock it in. I did see blood drops that show directionality, and some of them had changed position, which is consistent with a cast off, but it's also consistent with anything that is losing blood drops going in a different direction.
Is it only the human body that can do those blood drops, or?
No. Any object that has blood on it, or the blood is coming from.
Let me give you a hypothetical. Say Jason Chen killed Jasmine Pace in the back measure of the apartment. Did you observe the wounds in this case?
I did.
What kind of blood loss would that cause?
Massive.
Would that have transferred to Jason?
I don't see how it couldn't. He would have had to have a lot of blood on him, on his clothing, or depending on what he's wearing, feet, legs, waist, top of the head, back of the head. That's, and when we mention cast off, if you're using something to do harm or damage, when you're casting off, you're doing like this. You've got forward cast off, you've got backward cast off. And when that happens, you're gonna have blood droppings coming down on your clothing too, around your neck area and your hair.
So if Jason, covered in blood, crawled towards the bathroom and lifted his arm up that was covered in blood, would it cause those impact stains in the bathroom wall?
Yes,
Say he took his shirt off that was covered in blood, could that have caused those impact stains on the wall?
yes. Again, anything that's got blood on it. If there's enough blood there to cause a blood draw, any movement of that object can send blood away from it. Anything.
To a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, can you say where Jasmine Pace was killed in this apartment?
No,
Can
not in my opinion.
Just a quick question about that maroon sheet.
Yes,
Do you understand that it was collected
yes, item number 30, I believe.
in the evidence inventory report by Investigator Johnson?
I don't remember the collection name, but I do know she collected a lot of items, especially the swabbings and stuff.
Are you confident that she actually sent the maroon sheet to the TBI to be tested?
I was thinking, but I haven't looked at the inventory sheet in quite some time. I don't know exactly everything that was sent. I do know it was collected for a purpose. I don't know.
And then you're positive that it wasn't tested?
Yes, I looked at the lab results, and I don't remember anything indicating a red sheet on the red sheet.
There's no doubt that Jason Chen contaminated the apartment and they cleaned it up?
Oh, no. Cleanup is part of contamination. Like I say, anything coming in, occurring in, or leaving is going to contaminate your scene from what occurred.
There's no doubt that officers Brayson and Creighton contaminated that scene.
Correct.
There's no doubt that the Pace family and whoever else went in and contaminated that scene.
Yes.
And there's no doubt that the scene changed from when those officers went in versus when CHE went in.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. I'll pass the witness.
Thank you, Robert.
All that arguing over that guy, did that move
Good evening.
you at all?
Good evening, sir.
How are you doing, sir?
Doing well, thank you.
They ask good questions. They are not stupid. They need to fix their sound system. That noise has been going the whole trial.
So you may not have been aware, because I don't think you've been in here the whole time, unlike some of us. Would it surprise you to learn that there's already been testimony that a large number of people went into Jason Chen's apartment looking for items, conducting a search?
Yes, I've read it. There was a lot of information in the discovery, and then you've got the two officers. And then however many people were there to investigate it during the process, and you've got multiple crime scene people, multiple detectives, they're coming and going. And again, the only way in and out is the front door.
Sure. And beyond law enforcement individuals, you're aware that Jasmine Pace's family, in a frantic search for their daughter, went into Mr. Chen's apartment
Until later. All that information I had when I went was, that's what I now want.
Sure. But you now know that.
Yes,
And that can easily explain the difference of body cam, crime scene photographs, especially if there was testimony that they went in after the police officers on the body cam. Right?
yes. You've got the body cams, you've got a period of time. There could have been anybody. Family members went in before the crime scene pictures were taken.
Sure. And, sir, have you had an opportunity as part of your participation in this case to review the cell phone location data from Mr. Jason Chen?
I did look at it, and I did notice, the reason is timeline. Timeline is very important. Okay. When things.
I got 3 people waiting on me to get it going back.
There's 0.
Person that does that. I did look at it, and I did notice, the reason is timeline. Timeline things occur. But as far as understanding it, I've got enough in here that I don't need all that.
Sure. So you're aware then, of course, excuse me, that Mr. Chen had access to his apartment, I guess 23rd through the 25th.
The only way I would be able to answer that is, there is no documentation of who went in after the body cams until the crime scene, unless it's in the discovery. That's the only way I would know.
Or the testimony of witnesses in court places.
Somebody saw him or put him there, yeah.
Sure. Okay. Sir, would you agree that your observation is on the 9th day of December 2022 were not particularly
And then I got down and crossed it and stood out more.
sure.
And I could see some pattern, but some kind of swipe, wire transfer.
Right. Wiping marks, swipes, which a swipe is where I have an article article, like maybe a piece of clothing that has blood on it, and I brush it against a dry object, right?
Correct, it's a swipe transfer.
And a wipe transfer would be, I think you described it as a wet substance like blood that I then touch and it causes some kind of change.
What, you don't even have to move it, it's
Just the mere fact of touching it.
it's a transfer, but if there is movement, then it becomes a wipe.
And the blood started around the backside of, it's been called at various times a couch, but futon.
Right.
I think we would agree it's a futon.
Yes. Now, from the front door to the futon, that's when I first started seeing it. Like I said, the room was still lit like these pictures, except for these blue lights, except for the bedroom and the bathroom. So when I'm walking through, I'm scanning my light, and then I see what I thought was things. So I got down lower and cross-lit it, but it was behind the futon when I first started seeing it.
Sure. And with your naked eye, you saw stains there. You also saw dried blood in the bathroom.
Yes.
And that's where you saw the impact. I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm using the correct terminology. Impact stain with direction on the bathroom wall to the upper left of where the door frame was.
If you're standing in a doorway, I'm 6'3", and I don't touch the top, so I don't know what to talk about. If you hold your hand straight out, it's probably gonna be close, but there's a towel rack there. And then it's above the towel rack, so I would say in this position.
And your testimony is, sir, that blood would not soak through porcelain tile.
It will the grout,
The grout, it
but
absolutely.
it will not, the tile is solid and it will cool there. But
And that
the grout will absorb it, kind of like, it's an absorber.
Sure, and it would create beneath the tile floor a unique pattern. It would
Similar to the
reflect-
tile.
It would reflect the grout lines. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay, thank you, sir. And now, how does, well, it's not even as porous as, say, a carpet, right?
I'm not a chemist or anything, but I do know it absorbs pretty good.
Sure. But when you spill water on a tile floor, it doesn't instantly seep in.
No,
does it?
So it's slow.
It's much slower absorption rate.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Meaning that it would take either a larger quantity of blood or a longer period of time with blood exposed to the grout for it to soak through.
How much blood is involved? If blood hits carpet, there's not much volume, it's not gonna seep much, and it's not gonna spread much. It takes a larger amount of volume to get bigger patterns. Grout will absorb it, but how much blood actually hit the grout? So it helps to go under it. But as far as a couple of drops or something like that, I don't think it's gonna absorb completely through the grout.
Sure, you'd have to have a much
A
bigger
volume.
volume.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, I'd like to talk with you a little bit about the impact stain with direction. Can you describe to the jury what kind of a shape that would produce? And if we need to draw, I can get you a sheet of paper. I'll get you a pen. So as, let's say I was a blood stain pattern analyst, such as yourself, what would I be looking for what I would?
First off, impact stain is again, it's blood with force behind it, sending it in a direction. And normally, unless it's, if this is the wall, if you're at an angle, it's gonna hit it and slide. If you're here, it's gonna hit it, but it's almost straight up. So you're gonna see small tail. It's at the tail will be on the end, not at the beginning.
Okay. Would you mind drawing that for us, just generally, and I'm not gonna hold you to.
Oh, yeah,
I
I can't draw work.
I understand.
This one here.
So something like that.
And that indicates the blood is going downward.
So which direction, if you could draw an arrow of where it came from? So it's coming from the top of the page, heading
Right,
towards.
and the little dot below, it's usually a continuation from the big stuff. Sometimes they separate, depends on the angle, but usually the tail is connected.
Thank you, sir. Smart. Sir, 227. And in the bathroom, you observed some of these marks.
I saw some impacts there.
Sir, I'm going to show you what, well, first, but before that, if it's not an impact stain with direction, what kind of a shape would a blood drop? Let's say I have a drop of blood that drops from a particular height straight down to the ground.
It's a blood drop. First, you have to have enough volume for it to drip. I believe that's 0.05 milliliters. Once it drips, if there's no movement, and there's no any type of force, now a ceiling fan can cause force because it's causing circulation. But a straight down drop should look like, if there's any slight movement at all that can change that, it might be a 70 degree, which means it's slightly shifted a little bit. That means movement involved or force. If you're walking, it's showing directionality and the tails are going ahead of you.
Now, sir, there's a photograph that's been admitted into evidence. It is 176-5. You see it up here on the screen, and it's also behind you. I don't know which would be more convenient for you. Now, the only problem is the laser pointer doesn't work on that.
Okay.
So,
It'd be easier this way.
yes, sir. So, what are we looking at?
Focus, you can still see it. Now, let me explain what we're seeing here. There's a ruler here and here. That is not to indicate from here to here. What that is giving you is an idea so someone can look at this and determine how large it's staining going from here to here. That's why this little white piece more than likely was put there. So you're seeing the size of the stain. But what this thing tells me is it hit right there. Now, excuse my shaking up, but it hit right there and run down and caused like a pool. That's a level surface right here. Unless it's slanted to let the flow continue, it's going to stay right there. So it looks like an impact stain that hit there. No way to tell the angle, no way to tell much at all about it, but that it hit and then it's run down and landed.
All right, thank you, sir. So this is an impact that then pooled on that ledge created by the molding along
That's what it
the floor.
appears to be to me.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I'm going to show you this photograph here, 179-1.
Okay.
What does this photograph show?
This here is the framing in the bathroom leading into the bedroom. Like I said, I'm 6'3" and I don't hit my head on these things, so it's got much higher than 6'3".
Right?
And it's to the left. Right here is one of the supports for the towel rack. So I would say, let's see, you go over here, it starts at 4, and they start about 2, so it's almost a foot up above the towel rack. So I would kind of guess it's getting around the 5.5 foot mark.
Would it help if I zoomed in for you?
As far as this, no, sir, I know, I don't have the exact measurements of the.
No, I mean of the pattern.
Oh, okay, yes. Well, it starts here.
Okay.
And comes down there.
All right. So could you please point out to the jury the, I guess, the impact stains with direction that you can observe in this photograph?
As I described, you see this one here. You can see the tail, and I'm going to identify it like a clock, going towards the 11 o'clock position. So it's hitting here and going this direction. And here, looks like a smaller stain. It could be what we call a satellite stain. It could be from this stain, or it could be another stain that has finally lost its velocity and landed. This one here is going almost identical in the direction of this one. But if you look at this one, the direction has changed slightly. That doesn't mean there was a secondary. It just means this stain, and I think it has lost gravity and started to come down. So the position, when it comes down, then it does gonna go to the left. So these look like 11 o'clock. This, again, you got smaller stains here, which this picture, you can't really see the directionality. You might if you zoom in. We've got one here that doesn't have the complete tail, but you can see the smaller area here. It's going more like, it's not a 9:30, but it's between 9 and 10 o'clock position. This here, I really don't see a directionality. This one has some directionality, and this one has direction. Now, this one over here, see how small it is? So it has come down further.
And sir, would you agree that the majority of the larger impact stains with direction are pointing in this general direction?
Correct.
And so if we were to trace that line down towards the floor, would you agree, sir, that it places them somewhere in the vicinity of this area right here?
Well, you've got to understand, this is trim, so it stands out from the wall. So you know the stain has to be on this side of the trim for it to be able to go up. Now, the stain itself, like I said, to get the angle and the to get the angle where this is coming from, you have to measure the stain, the width and the length, use trigonometry to convert it to come up with an angle. That angle can tell you how far towards us or where the source is coming from. But there was no measurement, so I cannot tell you where the source came from except in this area.
The area, and when you say this area, are you describing the darker sections?
I would start it at the trim of the door and come back. Now, how far? Again, I don't have the measurements of the stain, but I would say in this area, because of the size, the width of the stain.
And so we're clear, the areas that you described in this general area here are locations where you saw blood stains in the grout between the tile floor and the
Yes.
bathroom.
This appears in this picture to be the original color of the ground. You can see the darker color here.
And sir, the discoloration, which you described, which I think you described as possible blood stains,
Correct.
right?
The reason I say that, unless it's tested and a confirmation, I list it as possible.
Sure.
So I get a confirmation.
So what you admitted into evidence, you described as blood on the
Possible blood.
possible. So this is possible too.
Correct.
It could be something else.
Correct.
We just don't
It was
know.
not tested.
But likely blood. Given what you know about the case,
The
and
preponderance,
things that happened
the
in it,
preponderance indicates.
sure, that it would be blood on this and blood on that.
Correct.
Okay. And you would agree, sir, that the discolored area covers assuming that each one of those tiles is, 8 to 10 inches, that's
Normally 10 to 12,
10 to 12, so we're
Most of
talking
the time.
possibly 3 feet by 2 feet?
but I don't have the measurements on it.
Sure.
But yeah, if you figure, to be safe, 8 to 12, I would go ahead and include it. It could be the whole difference. So you've got some feet here. But again, if the stain was measured, I could be almost to the location.
Sure.
Now, one thing that changes is the height.
Okay.
Because that's where the angles come in. You have blood here, but I cannot say the source didn't come from here because we don't know if there was stains between that until it hit the wall. Like I said, the blood drops are going to travel until they lose gravity or hit something.
Right.
So that looks like the tail end of the impact.
Would you describe this area here as a large potential blood stain?
Well, I don't see a stain except for in the grout. Now, I cannot say the tile itself had blood on it because none is visible.
Because
It wasn't clay.
clean, right?
Very light.
Very
But the
likely.
tile, I can say, yes, some blood got on this tile somehow.
Sure. And, well, sir, let me show you the underside of the tile. the tile backer boards are in evidence in this case. They're here.
Let's change that.
Oh, gosh. They haven't been opened yet.
The photograph changed.
I'm sorry. We can fix that. So the tile is in evidence. The actual backer board shown in that prior photograph. Okay. Pull it up. I don't even know where it went. There it is. They're in evidence. Do you see a distance marker on that now?
Yes, is this the back side of the backboard or is this the top of the backboard?
Look, this is the top of the backer board, sir.
That's what I was thinking, I just wanted to clarify.
And I think
Stains in the grout area.
consistent with blood soaking through the grout and spreading out under the actual tiles.
Correct. You also have some up here,
Right.
but you can't tell if it's grout or not.
Thank you, sir. Now, I'd like to ask you a little bit about your observations on the photograph that you created in Collective Exhibit 226. Do you mind?
Okay, the big cover.
So, sir, you observed when you went into Mr. Chen's apartment, the bedroom. Is that correct?
Correct.
And when you were there, the bed was up against what crime scene calls the north wall. I'll show it to you right here. Okay? Up against that wall that we see here.
Yes, when I visited, yes.
Okay, it was up against that same wall
Correct.
next to the
I don't know if it's exact position, but yes, that's the head top, the top of the bottom.
And you also had an opportunity on not one but two occasions to look inside this bedroom.
Yes,
During your time that you spent inside this bedroom, both on the 9th and again a couple of days, 5 days later, on the 14th, other than what we saw down there next to the molding or door frame, did you observe any directional blood spatter, or I'm sorry, impact stain with direction?
just the one we talked about over here.
Nowhere else.
There's something here, but
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
but as high as I could get up was my height. I didn't have anything stand up higher.
Sure. But nothing stood out to you,
Nothing stood out, and nothing stood out in the photographs.
even though you were able to observe with your naked eye in other rooms, impact stain with direction on
The
walls.
bathroom
The bathroom. Only room that has that.
that I was located.
Sure. Thank you, sir. When you went to Mr. Chen's apartment and into the bedroom initially on the 9th, you didn't initially see the blood stains on the carpet, did you?
I saw what looked like could be blood, and there's saturation stains, which these here.
Now, I thought
But
that
it's possible blood,
was possible.
but it's a discolorization.
Sure.
Now, did I see that? I saw some, but I didn't notice what was going on until I enhanced the photograph.
Sure. So with the naked eye, you could see something,
Something.
but it's only when you started, enhancing, manipulating the photograph with those tools that you have, that you said, hey, there's something going on under that bed.
Yeah, you can see the discolorization, but is it clearly an indication of blood? No.
And what was going on under that bed in 127-2 is the very large reddish brown stain that we have right here.
They're called saturation stains.
Saturation stains that tailed off towards the doorway. You see that saturation stain right there?
Yes.
Okay. And going back to the preceding photograph that I showed you, it heads towards right there, towards where?
This picture can give indication here, but you also had blood over here.
Sure. Yeah, so there's blood in a second location, and I can
That's
show
where
you.
the cutout part was.
Right, and that would be where evidence marker 9 is?
Correct, right there.
Okay. So that blood, what did you describe it as, sir?
Saturation.
Saturation. There's blood saturation from a large body of blood saturation out towards the door, which then would lead us to a large area with possible blood in a room with impact stain with direction.
Yes.
An impact stain with direction, as counsel for the defendant pointed out just a little bit ago, that could be caused by someone taking off their shirt,
Correct,
swinging their arm,
correct.
or stabbing. Can it?
Many more,
Many more.
but yes,
But stabbing repeatedly is one of them.
the way you just described it,
Would cause more, right?
it wouldn't cause that stuff.
Wouldn't
You're
cause
going
that
up and down.
Sure. But it back and forth?
It depends. Again, you have to have additional information to determine if it is a cancer. What supporting? It shows the directionality, where it's coming off of the source. There is no way to know what the source is, and how far away you are, and how much blood is on the source.
Thank you, sir. If I could have the document, Jason. No, sir. All right, sir. So I'm showing you 226, and this is the final page of the collective exhibit, which is your photograph one, right? It's the
It's a crime scene picture.
Crime scene.
But in my order, yes, it's number one.
Correct, and I'm going by your order now. It's the most zoomed out picture
That's the actual picture.
without enhancement,
Correct.
as is no enhancement.
Correct.
Sir, if I could get you to please point out in this photograph where those red marks are that you identified
In this area.
that area.
Yes.
And I'm going to go to the closest, most enhanced one that you have, which I believe would be your third photo, is what you'd call it.
Correct. I did a zoom and then got even closer to a second zoom.
But for record purposes, it's the second page of the collective exhibit.
Third. This one.
Right. But your third photograph.
But my second.
And yeah, thank you. And this is what you describe as possible blood transfer from fingers
It
to.
appears, to me, that is giving me a strong indication that this is linear marks in possible blood that is consistent, and in my opinion, fingers.
Linear marks consistent with fingers.
Yes.
Sir, what shape do fingers have generally?
And a lot of times it depends on your body weight.
Sure.
Some people have thin, some have long. But again, it's like, if this is blood and has any kind of movement in the finger, it can be wider, it can be longer.
Sure. Now, sir, you'd agree with me though, fingers don't tend to have perfectly straight lines.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
Isn't it possible, sir, that what we actually see on the screen is not a bloody handprint or bloody fingerprints, but where the cloth has been folded over and a transfer happened that way? See how there's a
Come back to
line?
here.
Yes. And then we have another dark line you see to the right of that middle one here? No, sir, to the left? Yes, sir, right there. Yes, sir. Isn't it possible that that could actually be the case?
Not necessarily, because you have to understand what this stain is showing. Is areas of the fingers that has blood on them. We don't know how much blood was on them, if this was a hand. We don't know if it's blocked here, which would cause a straight line. Well, I can't say beyond reading that.
Sure. So really, we're just kind of guessing.
We're kind of saying, to me, it appears, in my experience, that these are consistent with finger marks.
Now, Sir, you mentioned that there's no measurements and there's not a whole lot of scale that you can go off of to determine the size of these.
There's nothing, I would need it in the photograph with the stains.
Okay. Well, sir, in your lengthy law enforcement experience as a detective, it's not uncommon for law enforcement to get requests for independent testing from people. Isn't that right?
I'm not following the question, sir.
Well, in your private investigation job, have you not obtained items of evidence out of police property?
approach.
Belle, am I gonna have to mute? Because Belle wants our dinner.
So if someone, you testified earlier that you didn't observe any drag marks, bloody drag marks through.
I did not personally see.
If a person were to say pick up a body and carry it, you wouldn't see drag marks, would you?
Correct.
Next, sir, I'd like for you, if you can, point out for me in 147-5, if I can have the, sir, thank you. Could you please point out in this photograph, crime scene photograph, where those?
I'm sorry, just for the purpose of record, can you,
I said 147-5.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
My apologies.
Could you please point it out?
What's that?
Where the fingerprints are?
I can't observe it. I don't see it in that picture. I mean, it's possibly there, it's just with that enhancement, I'm not able to see it.
Without the enhancement?
Correct. Of course, I'm a distance away.
Sure.
It's gonna be in this area, but
In that area?
yes,
Are you sure?
it's right in that area. It's what it appears to be from the picture. As you can see, this here is applied like it's supposed to be, and that picture is pulled down. It's changed.
Right. It is changed.
Yes. The top of it has been pulled up.
Sure.
It could.
So we don't really, we can't see it on the.
Not
crime
necessarily.
scene photograph. It is as found, right?
I cannot say,
But it,
I mean, if I enhance this, I might be able to, but you're looking at it at a different angle. It might not stand out as much.
Why would you not use the, photographs of as found to try to confirm that this objection?
What, I mean, same objection before. I think this goes to his analysis where he was changing the setting on his camera. So I think that's within the realm of what's already done. So that's your objection.
Why would you not analyze this photo and
I did all photos. I just,
every single one of them?
if I would have seen it, I would have probably done the same.
Thanks. Another thing I noticed, sir, could you please describe what's to the right of the evidence marker 11 in that picture?
This here,
Yes, sir.
pillow with a dark case on it.
Okay. And you would agree, sir, in the body cam video, that pillow is covering up where item 11 would be.
This pillow was over here.
Yes, sir. So when you put on your presentation that knife is added, you can't say that it wasn't already there.
It's added in the picture though.
Added in the picture, but it very well could have been there.
Could, yes.
Thank you, sir. I want to talk about contamination of crime scenes, okay? You, by doing 2 walkthroughs, contaminated the crime scene,
Anybody that went in that apartment,
including defense counsel when he entered with you.
to where he walked to, yes.
You would agree, sir, that moving and removing a body from a homicide scene really is contaminating the scene.
Yes.
Jason Chen did that, didn't he?
I have no idea. I assume because Mr. Pace was found at a different location. But what actually, I can't say.
Cleaning up blood, like you described the motion like this,
Yes.
spreading it out, that really, really contaminates the scene, doesn't it?
It contaminates, but mostly it destroys what we're looking at.
Jason Chen did that, didn't he?
I have no idea who did it. All I know is what I saw.
Disposing of the remainder of a murder weapon is contaminating the scene, isn't it?
It would be his.
Remaining in a crime scene with copious quantities of blood for days contaminates the scene, doesn't it?
Yes.
Wheeling a suitcase through a bloody crime scene contaminates it.
Yes.
I can have a moment. Sir, you'd agree that dried blood is much more difficult to transfer than wet blood.
Correct. I mentioned that earlier. That
And that's why,
it's possible, but not.
and that's why within your scope of expertise, you know that in order to collect a sample of blood from a dried surface, you have to first wet the cotton swab with distilled water.
Cotton swab or whatever you're taking it with distilled water.
And
Yes.
it's
You have to have some type of moisture.
And it's very common to use a cotton swab on a wooden stick to collect
Yes,
blood samples.
yes.
In fact, that's the accepted practice across the state.
There's other ways, and I've done both, but the most often used is the cotton, long cotton swabs. They're about this long.
Yes, sir. And it only takes hours to a day or so for blood to dry, right?
It could be many different times because the temperature inside the room can accelerate it or decrease it, or it's actually decrease it. Give it a longer time or shorter.
Sure, the drier the air, the faster it
Right,
dries.
it's like if you're in a room and there's no air coming in, it's gonna be a matter of time.
But you'd agree, sir,
I
this
wish
was a
answer
climate
the
control
question instead of saying, but it could
residence,
do this and it could do that, it could do this, it could
wasn't
do that.
abnormally cold.
Asked.
That, I don't know what the temp was, and we're talking multiple different days, but a bit of when things progress, I don't know what the temp was in Chattanooga during those days.
And sir, are you sure you couldn't see the bone in that body cam video?
It could have been, but I'm looking at it and it looks like it's gone, it's possibly there, but it didn't stand out to me. But it was in one place, and in that place, it's no longer there.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
That poor court reporter. That guy jumped on top of that attorney's questions I don't know how many times. And nobody said. Only one person could talk at a time. Belle, go away. You have dog food over there. You're right, Judy. It does kind of look like blade marks. I didn't even think about that. But of course, when they said fingers, that's what I saw. But then when they showed it again and said it could be something else, I thought, looking at it, then I thought, well, yeah, it kind of. And now that you say blade marks, I can see blade marks. What's that called? There's a word for that. It's not confirmation bias. What's it called? When somebody tells you something looks like something, you see it too. Or like, on ghost hunting shows when they have like
Redirect.
an EVP
Do you have any questions, Mr. Moore?
and you can't hear anything and then they tell you what it says and then you can hear it. There's a name for that. I can't remember what it is.
Paranormal there.
I know it's paranormal, but there's a name for that. When all of a sudden you can hear it because somebody tells you what it says. You're hearing it because they heard it, but did I tell you you could lick that plate? What if I was going to go put more food on it? Now your tongue has been on it. Too late now, huh? It's a good thing I wasn't going to use it again. Is it like, it's not power of persuasion. What's it called? Dang it. I'm going to have to look it up now. I don't even know how to go about looking it up. What's it called, Belle? You're a beagle. You're supposed to be smart. All she wants to do right now is lick my plate. How are you getting so skinny? You eat constantly. I need to know your secret. She's old. She's losing weight. She'll be... How old are you, Belle? She'll be 13 in May. I was thinking if they were fingers, they were way too big to be female fingers. Especially, she was what, like 5 feet, 98 pounds? Those fingers, if they're fingers, they're way too big to be her fingers. But then you see blade marks. That makes much more sense. Because if they're fingers, they're not hers. They're too big to be her fingers. she's Miss Marvel and can stretch her hands.
At these points, I'd like to name the differentials. C5, which tells me this is the center differential with 5,000 CFT oil. After creating another differential, again using the exact same process as the first, we'll scroll back on the video and you can see again. Then go up R5, rear differential with 5,000 oil. Then finally, note that we're building the final differential. We like to clean using the 7,000 weight on this video. Otherwise, the process is again the same. And this unit is a label of F7 or front 7,000 weight differential. So that's bags A and B complete. And all three differentials ready and filled. We've also marked each so it's easy to distinguish the front from the rear. We really do not want to get these mixed up considering they carry different weights of oil. We'll start getting these differentials into their housing next with at C, the center differential and brakes assembly.
It's not confirmation bias. Maybe it is confirmation bias.
Now.
People's tendency to process information by looking for or interpreting information that is consistent with their existing beliefs. This biased approach to decision making is largely unintentional and it results in a person ignoring information that is inconsistent with their beliefs. I don't know if that's exactly what.
Hello, Belle.
No, I don't think that's it. Because you thinking it tonight and me agreeing with you, I don't think that has anything to do with beliefs. Predictions about a particular outcome. People are especially likely to process information in the context of decision making. Once an individual makes a decision, they will come on, StreamYard. I think I'm fixing to crash again.
questions. So I'm gonna ask them, but if you could face the jury when answering, please.
Oh, maybe not.
23rd, and it was 4 to 5 days later when police entered. Wouldn't blood be dry by then?
I would expect it to be. But I wasn't there, I can't tell. But I would expect it to be over that period of time.
Can you confirm if you saw
Wine glasses, I did not see. I would have expected it to be collected if it was there. Wine bottles that had been opened, there was a couple that had the cork up, which if you open it, you push it back, you're not gonna get it back like it was. There was a couple that the cork was up. Some, most were sealed.
this question deals with the comparison photos of the body cam footage versus crime scene photos. They will not come back as an exhibit. However, since you obviously have a question, show them during redirect or recross just if they wish. Do you think it's possible that Jason Chen moved items on November the 27th after the body cam footage was filmed, since cellular records previously admitted to the record show him in the area later that day?
There is nothing that gives me any information who did. There's nothing to lock in who it was. All it is,
I think the juror's question was, do you think it's possible?
it's possible, but everything's possible until you can confirm or refute. That's the way I usually go for possible. Either say yes, it did or could, or no, it couldn't or didn't.
There's a question asking about photos in the subfloor, asking if the witness could determine what position his body was in. That was the case.
Also, run that walk on top of it.
Can you redirect that question? Just for one of the questions was, after a few days, you would expect the blood to dry, right?
Correct.
What if it was sprayed with clean?
And can easily be, but dry blood, you can transfer. It's very hard. But you, on the floor with dry blood, you can still pick up particles that Blue Star will react to.
What about if you sprayed it with alcohol?
I don't know all of the false positives. I would think alcohol would be one, but I would physically test it.
My question is, would spraying alcohol on blood keep it damp? Or make it
Yes,
more
whenever that happens, it would stay damp until it eventually dries off.
It's your understanding that there was a cleanup after this incident, right?
Yes, from reading the discovery and from some of the swipes and wipes I saw, yes.
And great efforts were taken to clean up the apartment.
I would say yes, because there's very little blood in the bathroom. And to get from point A to point B, you would think it would be.
Later on. I think Mr. Wilson is the guy.
Let the man go back to Neptune now.
It's 10 minutes after 6. If you have a brief witness or witness you absolutely have to call today because of scheduling, we can do as much as we can. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the testimony you're going to hear for today. Again, I must remind the admonition not to talk to one another or anyone about this case, and do not let yourself be exposed to media. We're gonna have a bit of an outing tomorrow. I'll step in the jury and give you more details about that in a moment. That's it for now. We'll resume on Monday at 9. Next up. We are winding down, obviously. I think the first trial, we're back in the defense group now. I'm not sure how much longer to go, but I'm going to go ahead and start tweaking the jury instructions. I was waiting to see if there's anything about self-defense or anything different in the pattern jury instructions. A lot of this that needs to be added. But just be thinking about that. If the state or the defense has any extra jury instructions you want, please draft them and submit them. We can argue about them at some point before we. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
All right, some recess till 9 a.m.
Okay, guys, yay! 9:30 Monday morning. So I will see you guys there, and only one person is still with me. And I think it must be Judy. I hope it's Judy. So, Judy, I will see you over at Biggins. Oh, we're not too late tonight. Yay! So, bye, guys. Love you, replay crew. And I will see you guys Monday at 9:30 a.m. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. Jesus loved you, and so do I. Bye. And now StreamYard does not want to end the stream. There it goes.